Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier, and I'm here with my very special guest host, John Restuccia, the author of the J Rest Break. You've probably seen it. Many people have. It's wildly popular, and he's here with us today, back in the studio live. And we're going to be talking with you about so many issues that are important. But before I start with that, let me mention, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you. We thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know that every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just like we are right now, we reach out across the world to talk to you, to hear your voice about the issues that matter, whether your government agrees, whether or not the internet overlords agree. We are always here to hear what you have to say about every issue. Yes, I know John has his green screen hat on.
Yes. This was more of an impromptu show up, unfortunately. I would have gotten a better hat.
Yeah. So let's not pick on John because he's got the hat.
I'll take the hat off. How about that? Audience will love it.
Well, yes, because it looks so much better. Right. And I'm fixing this. So the first comment, by the way, goes today to user has been banned. Hello, user. It's good to see you out there. And he was picking on you about that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I have the comments pulled up on my phone here.
Okay. And so, and he says, yeah, his head is real.
Yes. Even in my, if you watch the J Rest Break, even then I wear hats all the time.
I know. I was picking on him about wearing a hat as well.
Yeah, he was picking on me earlier today, but we have some good topics today, Mike.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things to talk about, folks. I mean, there was an event today. You may have seen the live stream that I did earlier, where I was the only news media covering a Back the Blue event in Southern Tier, New York. Something that at least 20 major news media outlets were aware of for at least 30 days. They had been prior notifications. They were told about this, emails that I personally sent out, amongst others that were sent out to them, and some contacts that I personally made to let the news media know that this weekend there was an event, a rally, a car rally, in favor of our local law enforcement. And John, do you know how many news media outlets actually showed up?
I can take a guess. I can also guess how many candidates showed up.
Well, you'll be surprised, but go ahead.
Okay.
Guess.
I'm going to guess. Counting you or not counting you?
Not counting me.
I'm going to guess 2.
0 news media outlets, but there were 2 candidates that were at the event.
Okay. Well, that's good that there were 2 candidates.
No, it's kind of sad.
There should be more.
Well, when you think of the fact that we had actual candidates in local races that were amongst 300 people. There were over 150 cars. There were state police and local police escorts for the entire convoy, the entire caravan of people that traveled from Endicott, New York into Binghamton, New York. You would think that at least one news station would have said, hey, this seems like this is a news event happening. We may want to cover this. It happens to be on the same day of this event that we were told about a month ago. Maybe the local populace would want to know what's happening in their city. And 2 politicians 2 individuals who are running for political offices, people will be voting for these people. Maybe we would want to see who they are and hear something about them. And 0. The only place that anyone can see the actual stream of the event, you can go here. It's on the No Soundbites Allowed YouTube channel.
And BitChute, correct?
Not yet.
No,
It'll be
not BitChute yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's not on BitChute or Odyssey yet, but it will be a little bit later.
Okay, it will be on those though. So if you want to check it out there you go.
Yeah, and on Rumble as well.
Yes.
So we will get that out. I haven't had a chance because I literally went from that event I was at 8:15 this morning, and I've been going straight. Got back from the event, came straight back here, prepared for the show today. But it's insulting and it's sad that none of the news media found this to be newsworthy. 300 members of the public, 150 cars. There were donations that were being made to Chow, a local service to help feed the public. And they were receiving donations. We believe it was about 300 meals were donated to help feed the local public, the populace, the community. And the news media said, you know what, feeding our fellow citizens, our neighbors, not important. 300 people, not important. 150 cars traveling through 3 different cities, not important. The public doesn't need to know about that. People are going to hear about this and they're going to say, I didn't even know that happened. Did that happen? Are you sure? It's not on the news. Why is it not on the nightly news? It must not be real. Meanwhile, all of these things happen. It's really insulting. It's terrifying. And I'm so happy I have footage and I have photos of the event that I'm going to be putting out in the next day as I'm going to edit all of that. I have hundreds of photos to go through. Yeah, and users Bimban mentions the news only likes to report fear. And you're right. They want you to be afraid. They want you to hate the police. They want you to think that the police are demonic. In New York State, AOC, look at all the Democrats. They want to defund the police, which has resulted so far in an increase of about 30% in the crime rates. We've seen about a 30% increase in the number of homicides. But they want you to think the police are bad people and that the government's going to protect you somehow.
Right. I talked about the Starbucks and the J-Rest break relating to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liberal cities, you can check out the J-Rest break on YouTube for a new short today. But I talked about how a lot of Starbucks locations are leaving major Democratic cities just because of the lack of policing and everything. And you know what, Mike? I'll say this. It's disappointing that only 2 candidates showed up. Right.
It's horrible. I wish the Democrats would have shown up as well. Why wouldn't they? There's 300 people who are involved in their community. Why wouldn't they?
Well, not just the Democrats, all right? Republicans are going to run on a pro-law enforcement platform and only 2 candidates showed up. You want to pretend to be pro-law enforcement, but you're only going to have 2 candidates show up? Those 2 candidates show to me that they're the real deal. Everyone else, shame on them. If they're going to even talk about pro-law enforcement, but they're not going to show up to a pro-law enforcement rally where over 300 people show up? Come on. That's ridiculous. The amount of rhinos it's a staggering amount to me. This just shows it.
And we've had local elections that have been decided by as little as 12 people. 300 people were there. And, the only two candidates that actually showed up, it was Sophia Resinetti, who's running for the Assembly, the 123rd Assembly District in New York, and Rich David. That's it.
Shout out to both of them. They prove that at least they're willing to back the blue. Every other candidate who's going to say they're pro-law enforcement, you need to start backing it up now because that's a strike against you for not showing up to this.
Yeah.
Props to both of them.
For all these people who say, I want to protect the people, I want to make sure you're safe, I want to help you, Kathy Hochul, Donna Lapardo, Jason Garnar, they all knew about this event. I know I sent them emails.
Yeah.
So they knew that their constituents, some of them were showing up at this event saying, we need to help our police. We need to respect and thank our police for doing the job of protecting us. It's not a lot. It cost no money.
Yeah.
The state didn't have to spend anything on it.
No.
The least they could have done is say, hey, I think our police have done. By the way, Southern Tier Police, zero police abuse charges.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. You know why?
Police.
Because every time we hear progressive leaders of tomorrow make a claim about the police abusing someone, then we go to the actual body cams, we look at it, and that's why for the last, I believe it's been 5 years now since we've had the body cams, not one actual case of anything that they have alleged.
And it's not like to be fair too, these politicians can't say, oh, I didn't feel safe in that environment. You're surrounded by police officers. So they can't use that as an excuse, oh, I didn't think it'd be safe.
You're surrounded by people who believe in law and order.
Yes.
People who believe in following the laws. And these are the people that they're going to say, oh, I thought it was radical. What's radical about following the law?
Crazy concept for some people. Crazy concept for progressives. Shame on them. Shame on the Republicans who didn't show up, who are going to preach to us about how pro law enforcement they are too. I just have to throw that. I'm going to be I'm going to be an equal opportunist. When they need to be called out, they need to be called out.
That's why I was happy, and people and looking at the video, I know that Sophia was talking to Sophia and Rich. They were talking to a bunch of people.
Good. Yeah.
So I didn't bother to. I didn't want to interrupt them having a conversation with the public. I did get them on video. People did get to see them, but
Props to them. They deserve. They're going to be real candidates who are going to support the law enforcement clearly, and I'm glad there was a big turnout. I couldn't go, but I'm glad there was a good sized turnout, and it shows that in this area we back the blue here. Yeah. We're not going to put up with the defund the police stuff that's affecting every other major liberal city where businesses are getting run out.
But that's the thing I want to get to. Why is it that across this nation, we are seeing the news media, they are making up stories. They are trying to isolate. They are editing. The bias is so blatant right now. Oh, the, The Inflation Reduction Act. It's good for you. It doesn't actually deal with inflation. In fact, it is inflationary because we are spending money. One of the two biggest things that are causing our economy to become 9.1% inflation and going higher. Yeah. Why we are in a recession. Oh, but it's okay. You just don't understand. News media wants to tell us, oh, the Hunter Biden laptop, it doesn't exist. Oh, they tell us that the Trump raid, well, that's because Trump broke a bunch of laws, because Russia collusion, because the Ukraine phone call. They're lying to us. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
The media is just so out of their mind. It's insanity to me that people are getting away with this, especially the mainstream media. The good news is it appears that a lot of mainstream media outlets are going broke, literally. CNN just let go of one of their big people, Jeffrey Toobin.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just let go of Toobin. CNN Plus failed. It's a lot of these mainstream media outlets are starting to die out, and good thing, because they're not reporting the news, and real people who are reporting the news, like you, Mike, and me, and the rest of the independent media, that's why so many people flock to them. But
it's upsetting to me. As we see, User has been banned, and Dow have talked about, if nothing else, this is, people are getting fed. There were 300 meals that were donated. And we're about to go into a time period where we know for a fact, according to the White House, that we are going to have a food shortage in the United States. There is a global food shortage already taking place, and it is only going to get worse. Don't you think you would want to tell people, hey, if you have some extra food, donate it to Chow, donate it to a charity so that people can be fed, because there are people hungry in America right now, and that number is only going to increase. The more we can donate to them, the more people we can feed through this terrible time that is coming very shortly. And they want people to starve. Literally, by not covering at least that aspect of the story, they would rather see people starve than possibly be introduced to an idea that isn't progressive.
Well, they don't want private charities to succeed either, so they can become reliant on government.
Yeah, but I guarantee you that same news media in October, and Dow mentioned this, and you're right, Dow, in October, when people are going to start getting hungry, and we're going to see 25% of the shelves in our stores are empty, then they're going to talk about, hey, but the Biden administration's got a plan to help you. They're not going to tell you what the plan is. They're not going to give you any of the details. They're going to tell you, oh, but he has a plan. He just needs to have a Democratic Congress to make sure it can happen. What plan? We've been waiting for the plan since February. I've been talking about this. Doesn't make any sense to me.
No. I think the Democrats, though, are really good at marketing, right? This new Inflation Reduction Act reminds me a lot. Like, they're really good with names, and I think that's what the media buys into, as well as having ties to the Democrats.
But see, that's marketing.
Oh, yeah, I know. But it reminds me a lot of the Affordable Care Act, right? Let's name it something like very positive, very fluffy, like it's going to fix the problem, even if it doesn't do that, right? The Affordable
It's
Care Act
literally,
fix it? No.
literally, they're saying it's the Inflation Reduction Act, and they're touting how it works on climate change.
Yeah, it's not going to reduce inflation, but the name alone suggests it does, and that's all the media needs to hear.
Yeah, and that's why they keep talking about the name as they intermittently they
Not
say,
what's in the policy. Yeah, I mean, that's why the Democrats are really good at marketing to the media, because it does. And to be fair, the media doesn't like to do work, right? Mainstream media does not like to do actual journalism. It's all in the title. They could just read the title and get this. They feel, oh, well, now we know about the bill. This is what it does.
yeah, the headline.
Yeah,
Here's
exactly.
the headline.
Yep,
The
exactly.
Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. You're going to be safe now. No, you're going to be on a list that the state's going to get paid for. The state is going to get paid to put you on a list, a red flag list, to take away your rights, and you're paying for it with your taxes, and criminals don't care.
Yeah, but the media will report that it makes you safer because that's what the headline is.
Which has never happened.
They have mastered the art of the mainstream media, which is to name it something really catchy and pretend that's what it does, right? Remember, like I said, going back to the Affordable Care Act,
Yep.
They're really good at that. And that's how the media portrayed it. And that's how they're going to do it now. They're going to say, oh, it's going to reduce inflation because that's what the title does, even if it has anything to do with inflation.
Yeah.
It shows how
it's
lazy the
mind-boggling.
mainstream media is, for me at least.
But you know how lazy the media is, and I know I'm jumping through a couple of stories here, folks. But and I know I'm not switching screens. Just to let you know, again, I got just back from the live event, so one of my screens is down, so I can't. But it's like the news media is so lazy that Chuck Schumer. We just found out that the New York Times decided when they got handed because it was about the police, Senator Tim Scott was trying to make sure that police departments across the nation were funded. Tim Scott is a black senator, by the way. He's a black Republican senator. And he said, no, the police are important to our communities. He agreed with every single poll that has been done in America. And every single time black people are asked, do you want to reduce the number of police? In every place across America, including Minneapolis, the answer has been approximately 70 to 73% of all black respondents have always said, we want the same or more police in our communities. Senator Tim Scott said, hey, I believe you. He wanted to put a bill out there to make sure that police were funded. And the New York Times got his op-ed, read that, and said, hey, you know what? Let's get the approval, not an opinion, not a counter or a balance of two different op-eds. They asked for the approval from Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader of the Senate, the majority leader, he had to approve whether or not the opinion of a senator of the United States talking about the safety of the American people, he got the yes or no approval on this. And by the way, the op-ed by Tim Scott never got published. That's how lazy our news media is. That's how irresponsible our news media is.
That's how in bed the news media is with Democrats. And let me ask this, all right? This clearly is not a standalone incident. This now the New York Times should be answering how many times have they killed an op-ed because a powerful Democrat who they are close to did not want it published. How many articles in general, who wrote the articles, what were the topics? These are all questions I think the New York Times has to answer for.
You would think that they should. You would think that after their reporters have been caught plagiarizing and just fabricating stories. NBC News caught fabricating stories. USA Today caught fabricating stories. CNN has been lambasted for their absolute fraudulent stories and the things they've gotten wrong. We're talking about the Russia collusion for 3 years. Rachel Maddow every night telling America that they had proof. Adam Schiff saying they had proof. And Rachel Maddow, the news agencies, never once asked him, show me the evidence. He says he has evidence every night. Says we have proof of the fact that Russia colluded with the Trump administration and they illegally did stuff. And when it came to, we spent $35 million, 3 years of time and effort and resources that could have been used towards, I don't know, feeding the poor, helping the homeless. And instead, we got to get the confirmation that he didn't have a single shred of evidence. And this is one big propaganda scandal. And all the news media just said, oh, well, going on to the next story, let me tell you what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to feel. Forget about that. That's not important anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, this also brings up the question, how many other publications does Chuck Schumer associate with, and how many of them seek approval from him that are close to the New York Times or related to the New York Times?
I asked him that in a tweet. And by the way, even though I'm not showing all the links we're speaking about today, at the end of the show, I'm going to be putting in links for all of the things that we're talking about, so you'll be able to see them all.
Yep.
But I actually sent a tweet out to Chuck Schumer asking him exactly that question. How many news agencies come to you and ask you for approval?
I guess great minds think alike, yeah.
Yeah, and I asked him that directly. Do you think I've gotten an answer?
Oh, God, no. And I think he needs to answer for that. And I think people are getting very tired of Chuck Schumer in New York. I think there was a new report today that people are getting tired of Chuck Schumer.
There was a poll about that recently, yeah.
People are getting sick of him. And like I said, I want to know how many and for how long, too. Let's ask that question. How long has this been going on?
That's a really good question because
1 year, 2 years, 10 years? How long has the New York Times been covering for Chuck Schumer?
Well, how long have they been doing it with any Democrat?
Mm-hmm. Who else is involved? Yeah.
Do they go to Nancy Pelosi when it's a representative in the House?
Do they go to the most powerful? And it shows how tight that the New York Times can go to the most powerful Democrat in the Senate. Not just any Democratic senator. I mean, this is the majority leader, the most powerful Democrat senator in the United States, and they can just ask for his approval on articles and op-eds.
No,
he is the review board, essentially, it sounds. He is the editorial system.
Now, folks, you're right. Now, but think about this. Folks, when we see our news agencies, they're not willing to tell you about local news that is happening just down the block from wherever you live, like they did today. Even when they were forewarned, they were notified ahead of time multiple times for over a month. When we see the news media is misrepresenting and misreporting information, not getting evidence, when they're fabricating stories, when they're going out there and they are playing politics, they are literally going to political opponents to see whether or not they should tell you the truth, whether they should tell you what your elected officials think and what they are trying to do for you. I got to tell you, what happened to the First Amendment? What happened to that freedom? That's what the whole point of the news media is. To tell you what government is doing, to tell you what is happening, to tell you things that you don't have the time to go and find out. No, instead, I have to do this. I don't, you know what? There's WNBF is our local talk news radio station.
Our best friend's on there.
Yeah, Bob Joseph, who I've
BFF, yeah, best friend.
Known him since 2014.
Yeah,
I've been on his show, not just probably close to hundreds of times. I've been at least dozens upon dozens of times.
Can you still get through, or because he blocks me at this point? Yeah, he won't.
No, I still get through.
Oh, you can still get through. That's funny. I can't.
Yeah, and he knew about this event. He won't cover it. And I guarantee you on Monday on his show, on his talk show, which is the only talk news program in the southern tier of New York, sadly, he's not going to mention this. I'm the only one that people can find it out from. And I don't have a budget of a couple $100,000. I don't have a team of staff. And we're talking about hundreds of people just at WMBF. We're not even talking about WSKG. We're not talking about the local news affiliates throughout the entire Fox 40.
Mike's got
any
me,
of them.
and that's it.
Yeah, it's like
Some days he's got me. That's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
And now and if they're not willing to tell you what's happening down the block from you, why would these news agencies tell you the truth about anything else that's happening that's going to affect your life? Mm-hmm. That terrifies me, folks.
Yeah. And they're still, I mean, the New York Times is still resting on their laurels of covering Watergate. Saying they're the ones who broke the scandal of Watergate. How come you're not breaking any more scandals? How come you are literally, I mean, you want to go back to that? I mean, it was New York Times who broke Watergate, correct? I'm getting this correct.
They were one of, I believe, yes.
One of the big ones, yeah. How come now they're asking a sitting U.S. senator if they can publish stories? It's insane. But you're right. There's no one else around here locally.
And they're creating scandals because they're the ones who covered up the entire Hunter Biden. Oh, we're not even going to look into that. We're not even going to consider actually checking the evidence that exists. Mm-hmm. We're just saying it's just not real.
Let's not forget the lawsuit against them by Project Veritas for lying about them.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that, right? They're being sued now for their misinformation. So,
Which is why I'm not surprised that we're seeing that all these news stations, why they're getting it wrong on so many levels. And we're seeing this day in and day out, and why we're seeing alternative news sources like this channel and like others. We're not the only ones. Cordisco and Cordisco's Corner is another one. A few other people regionally and nationally that are actually looking into stories, doing actual investigative reporting like Project Veritas, and they're going out there and they're doing what the news media used to do. It shouldn't have to be. We shouldn't have to need hundreds of individuals across this nation doing the job that the news media is supposed to do, because they are lying to you, folks.
Shouldn't, but too bad that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, that's what needs to happen.
I mean, how about this? Let's talk about, and so we've mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act, which is, according to 200 economists, is going to increase inflation. So the recession is going to get deeper and inflation is going to go higher because they just passed the Inflation Reduction Act.
But it's in the name, Mike.
It's got a great name. And 200.
It's the marketing thing, right? Yeah, that's how the Dems have mastered that.
Yeah, and we're seeing 200 economists that are laughing because it's absolutely absurd. It's not going to happen.
Terrible, yes.
And you are going to pay the price for that because some CNN is going to turn around and go, but it's a great deal. I mean, just look at the title. It's fantastic. And you're going to pay for this. And you're going to be starving. And your kids are not going to be able to be warm in the winter because you can't afford it. That's the danger of what we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. That it's absolutely going to affect your life negatively because the news media has a bias. But if you don't think that's important, if you don't think Tim Scott trying to protect your police so that you're going to be safe from that crackhead who's going to try and break down your door to get food, to get drugs, to get money, yeah, if you don't think that's important, how about this? Let's talk about what's going on with Trump. Let's talk about Florida. I'm pretty sure most people, everyone's probably heard about this by now. Yeah. The raid on Mar-a-Lago. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, John, do you think that that's real?
That he has?
Well, no, that it was justified. Let me ask you that.
Well, absolutely not. I mean, if he had those documents when he was president, then does his security clearance go away? Then he's no longer president? Is that
no?
That's the whole issue I have with
Obama is still able to go into the White House and talk to Biden about the issues affecting America and international policy.
Then this is a nothing story. I don't know. For me, it's a very scary thing, but I think everyone has covered it pretty well. But no, I don't think that it was justified whatsoever, and I think this was a nothing. This is a nothing case. Honest to goodness. It seems like a political attack. And to be fair, too, I mean, they have done these the FBI has now done multiple things like this. Look at how they treated Roger Stone, an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
Taking him half naked out in handcuffs. Even what danger does he pose? He's 80 years old. He's unarmed and half naked, and they're parading him around news media out of his house. The FBI's been a long, long time. This is just tip of the iceberg. For me, it was only a matter of time. And if they can go after a former president, they can go after you. You know, I think that's my whole feeling on it.
Well, we've heard that President Trump said that he thinks, and we've seen this across social media, that he believes that evidence was planted. Because we've also heard that from some sources that said, oh, well, they were looking for evidence. Now, just to give it full context, folks, in January of 2022, the FBI went to Mar-a-Lago and they went through all of the documents that President Trump had on behalf of the National Archives, and they took out 15 boxes of documents. So they looked through the documents. They noted all the documents that were there. They took 15 boxes of those documents, and they took them out of the residence. Then in June, they went back to Mar-a-Lago, and they went and took more documents because they were inept, and they forgot some of the evidence that they were there in January and got. By the way, they talked to the Trump lawyers. The lawyers were present, watched them go through all the evidence, went through all of Mar-a-Lago, and they got it, no problem, no questions, everything was fine. Now they're saying, oh, but there's more evidence. Wait a minute, you have all the documents. You have all the information. You know everything that was there. And now you're saying in August, oh, no, there's secret documents that are there that we need to try and find. You didn't find them in January. You didn't find them in June. And now you're saying they're there. And at the same time, they said, turn off all the security cameras. No one can be present as we walk through room by room with a search warrant that doesn't cover what they were doing, which is illegal. It is bald face, on its face, illegal. Ask any attorney you want. And and the news media is telling us, but you have to trust this because they would never plant evidence. Mm-hmm. These are the same people who have lied to us about Russia collusion. These are the same people who lied to us about the Hunter Biden laptop. These are the same people who will not tell us what's happening down the block in our own neighborhoods. Why should we trust them? Mm-hmm. By the way, if anyone thinks I'm wrong, if anyone thinks John is wrong on this, if you disagree with this at all, you can call into 607-242-1582. The phone lines are always on.
Yeah. All my loving fans can call in.
Yeah.
All of the loving comments I get. They can call in. They can talk to me. I'll talk to them.
You know, people see the J-Rest break has been phenomenally popular.
I don't know if I'd say popular, but it's definitely picking up.
I think it's very popular. It's been, it hasn't hit viral yet, but that seems to only be a matter of time.
Yeah.
And younger people love this.
Yeah.
And again, we're asking those same people who would watch those 1-minute videos or people who've been watching this channel. What do you think?
Yeah, I get a lot of lovely comments that disagree with me. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'd love to, explain my position. I want to hear what you have to say.
And you notice the news media doesn't really ask anyone in the public. Like they do lots of edited things where they'll chop up what people are saying, but they're not actually letting someone say, oh, do you think this was fair? This was justified? This is real, that there's real evidence there? What does the average person walking down the street, what do they think? I'm asking you that because I think I believe most people, to my knowledge, say something is wrong. Mm-hmm. This doesn't make sense. When you know what the evidence is, when you go away from just the headline and you actually look at what has happened in the timeline and you put it in context, which the news media seems to be absolutely unwilling to do, all of a sudden everyone goes, well, that's not justified. That's criminal.
It's, you know, and I was driving across the country thinking about this a couple months ago. I drove from Arizona back to New York. And I'll say this, the rest of the country compared to these coastal elites and these upper class white liberals, so different. When you're talking to the average American who is watching the show and everything, majority of people are so different than what the media is portraying, their thoughts on everything. And I think it's kind of important to remember that they're so different, that the average American thinks very differently and is very much more optimistic.
I think so.
I think that's really, I mean, especially, you know, when you're reading the news media all the time, it seems like just constant talks of civil war right now and everything. Talk to your local neighbors, just talk to people about these things, and you'll find a very different perspective.
I think the perspective is massively different and entirely opposite of what the news media is telling us we're supposed to believe, what we're supposed to think. I think it's completely different.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Absolutely. I mean, just crazy different, but who knows? I mean, the media is going to continue doing this, and they're going to continue doing this until they go bankrupt eventually, which, to be fair, probably isn't going to be too much longer. I don't know anyone with a New York Times subscription anymore. I really don't.
Yeah, but that's why they're trying to shut down all other sources of news. Yeah. I mean, Twitter has just come out and said that they're going to, what did they call it? Pre-bunk. They call it pre-bunk. It's like debunking, but it's going to be debunking before you actually say something. Yeah, they are going to pre-bunk your tweets so that you don't say the wrong thing about the 2022 election. Yeah. Literally, they just came out with that announcement on Thursday.
Yeah, but to counter that, young people are leaving Twitter en masse, which is nice. I think that's a positive. Twitter is now seen as a place for journalists and politicians only. So young people don't use it anymore. It's all the Instagram and it's all the TikToks and the YouTube Shorts. That's why I do well on YouTube Shorts. It's all that content. Twitter, I think, is slowly losing ground. Oh, you have a call.
You have a call coming in.
All right.
Hey, and thank you for calling into the program. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I'm your host, Michael Voss, with my guest host, John Rastusha. Can I ask, what is your first name?
Hey, Mike's Jason.
Hey. Oh, wait a minute. You're not coming through. Hang on. Let's fix this. 1 second, Jason. Try it again.
Am I there now?
Here? Oh, wait a minute. I know why. Hang on. I'm an idiot.
1 second, Jason.
No, that is connected. That's just weird that it's not coming through. Bear with me. It's a technical issue.
Sure.
While Mike works on that, I can promote my new episode of the J-Rest Break if you want to watch that. If you have a minute of your day, we do it almost every day, so be sure to check it out. As mentioned before, I did a recent video on Starbucks, so check that out.
Jason, try it again.
Hear me now?
Yeah, that's it. It wasn't connected all the way. Go ahead. I wanted to just make sure that you could be heard. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you're talking about the raid that happened, and I was kind of thinking the perspective of what they're actually doing and what the consequences will be. Because the thing is that they went and they did this, to Trump, and there really isn't anything substantial. Even if they do say that they found something, anybody who actually supports Trump is going to believe that it's been planted by the FBI, because the FBI already has a track record of trying to, frame,
can you hear me?
Trump before for the Russian collusion situation. For months we went on end for that. So there's absolutely no credibility when it comes to the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. I mean, none of these places have any sort of weight politically when it comes to where I think conservatives and Republicans stand at this point. But the thing that, I was starting to think about that's really scary is that it's more or less what it's going to do politically,
Yep.
Down the line to other ballots. Now, you do have a lot of people who are emboldened and are, coming out and running for office and stuff like that. But the problem I see is that the weaponization of the FBI and these organizations against political opponents are going to put people on their heels. And it's the same tactics that they used with the Tea Party when they went after them for their with the IRS. And I think that what we saw then and what we see with Trump is going to be just a taste of what the future will bring if politically Republicans, don't actually take initiatives to eliminate some of the power that these deep state organizations have. Because if you think about it as an individual, if you are going to be running for elected office and you're maybe going for a House seat or maybe even something lower down the line, but every time you do that and you're from an opposing party, then all of a sudden you have the IRS knocking at your door, you're going to be going through audits and all this other stuff, and you just be completely bogged down. You're going to think twice before doing it. And I think the people who are going to think twice are probably going to be the most, the better people, the people who have families, people who have, a lot of things to lose. They're just going to more rather avoid it. And the people who really don't care about anything, which you do see that, in my opinion, you see that substantially within the Democrat Party, especially towards the more progressive, wing of the people, wing of the party. I could see that that sort of behavior, running rampant without any sort of check, because they won't, even if, the government was weaponized against them, I don't really, foresee them caring, because there is actually, I believe that there's more of a criminal element to that wing there. But the point I'm making, though, is like I said, people who have more values, people who have, strong families, connections, people who have businesses that they're actually trying to run. Because if you're a business person trying to run, and then all of a sudden you have the IRS and you have, the FBI and you have everything just coming down on you, you're just not going to do it. You're going to stay away. So, like I said, I think this is going to be a turning point to see exactly what happens, within, within the House and the Senate and eventually the presidency, to see whether or not they can actually take some action to eliminate some of the power and the fear that the government can actually bring on people in the future.
But does anyone think that they're actually going to do that? That they're actually going to take action?
No, I don't. That's one of the scariest things. Them, by not taking action, basically, really, the Republicans and any of the conservatives not taking action, against this, basically is really that they're the ones who are responsible for the destruction of the United States. I mean, they're the ones who are not standing up against this sort of thing, And whatever their opinion was, on Trump, because I mean, every time it seems like Trump will get into trouble of some sort, you'd see a lot of the wishy-washy, Republicans go and run the other direction, This is exactly what the Democrats were hoping for and what they want. They want the DOJ to basically be able to run in there, rip somebody apart without any sort of probable cause, of any substantial, amount, especially substantial enough to actually justify going and raiding, the former president of the United States House. And I know they try to, clean up the way they did it, and they say, oh, yeah, this is just a regular procedure that we go in there and we do. And I'm like, yeah, right, okay.
Well, you can't say it's a regular procedure when you've never done it before in the history of the nation. Mm-hmm. There's nothing regular about it. It's never been done before. It's absolutely irregular.
And it goes both ways. I mean, I know that some people are saying, okay, maybe there's something planted, but a part of me is almost thinking that maybe something was planted to actually justify, this. But I think it was just one of those things where when the Russian collusion and all this other, stuff that the FBI was always going after Trump for, they were just really just figuring, well, there's got to be something dirty on him. We just have to find it. And when we do, then we got him. And the problem is that every time they do this, they never find anything on him, And so, but they have to justify why they did what they did in some form of way. Well, they don't really have to, because the media let them get away with it, especially with the Russian collusion for 4 years. But maybe this one they'll have to, or maybe they won't, because Republicans will just let them get away with murder on it. So I don't know. Look, I'm not very obviously I'm not very hopeful when it comes to the party itself, because I think that there's too many people within politics who are really going to be just trying to cover their own rear end. But the thing
But
is
that's
that
normal.
it's going to be too late in the future, because the thing is once the full weaponization of the FBI, the CIA, which they already are weaponized, but then when you got these other 85,000 85,000 IRS agents coming after people, and who knows, what sort of new laws they'll actually come up with, that the IRS will probably expand actually their jurisdiction beyond just what they're covering, with that much manpower. And so they'll actually go after other things add on, to actually, help the government run smoothly, according to the Democrats.
Well,
So,
let me ask you this, because it came up. I believe it was when I was speaking on the Liberty First Foundation roundtable on Friday, and we were talking a little bit about this. And one of the questions that came up, I think I also was speaking about it when I was on the Rory Sauter roundtable, and it came up that did they do this raid so that they could try and find evidence or plant evidence that connects Trump to J6, to the January 6th protests. Do you think that's the reason why they did this? Either whether it's documents that they had to invent or whether they were real, doesn't really matter. But this was all about the January 6th investigation and not about some document that the National Archives already has.
I think it was just, to tell you the truth, Mike, I think it was just a fishing expedition completely, I mean, unless we find out that there actually something substantial that they find, that actually is earth shattering, and we're like, oh my God, then I would be like, okay, that'd be something else. But since I really don't see anything like that right now. And so what I really think it was a complete fishing expedition. And the FBI, and just like before, when they were trying to do the Russian collusion and all the other crap, and they were going after, they just figured at some point there was going to be something bad that Trump did. And if they dig deep enough, they'll be able to find it. And then, irregardless of what they were looking for, it's like, hey, we were looking for this, but guess what we found on the side, And then they say, did you ever find the thing that you were actually, had the warrant for? No, but, we got this thing here. And so, like I said, it was a complete fishing expedition. They're just looking for something to actually that was bad that they could actually dig out of it. And they could have even used the January 6th as an excuse, because half of Americans would have been like, because they actually believe, half of Americans, meaning the Democrats, they believe that, January 6th was a, insurrection, and Trump did create it. And so, they believe that even if they went in trying to look for something like that, it would have been fine. But like I said, there's nothing there. They just gave the DOJ just went in there looking for something, and if they found something, then they would have actually gotten after it. And just the thought of that, though, and like I said, I think it does something politically to the entire party, because when you can have one party just standing there and taking this abuse from the Democrats, and when the Democrats got control of the FBI, the IRS, and all these organizations, then who wants to be part of the opposing party, So like you're saying, though, you're asking me, okay, was them looking for something for January 6th? Did they have a reason? I don't believe there was any reason. I think, like I said, my thing is they were looking for anything they could throw at them, and then if they could find something, then great. If not, then what they would do is they'd make up something saying, well, we had this here and we got this excuse. And then what happens is, then they basically just bury it the media would just bury it, and they'll move on to the next thing in 2 weeks.
Well, let me ask this. Let me ask a different question. Do you trust the news media? Like, as an example, today there were 300 of your fellow neighbors who came out to say that they respect and appreciate our local police force, our law enforcement. And not one member of the news media, who were all informed, showed up. Does that make you trust them more or less?
I don't know. My opinion on the media is really this: is that the fact is that they're looking in for sensationalism, and they're trying to sell a product. If they can't get a rise out of people or some sort of emotion, then they're not going to cover it. And I think when it comes to that sort of stuff, it's just like, I mean, if it's not police basically, killing somebody in a way that looks wrong, then they're not going to post it because it's not going to get any clickbait. I think part of it is just the way the media runs. If it's not hot, if it's not going crazy, then fine. Yeah, and you do have an element. There is the progressive anti, police element that's there, but. Like I said, I think it's more run by just honestly just clickbait and that sort of stuff. And so they don't really even care, I mean, if it doesn't make them money, then they're not going to put the manpower behind it,
Okay. Well, John, what do you think? Do you think the news media is they're not doing this because of the politics, but because it's eyeballs and they think they'll generate money from that?
I would have said probably 2 months ago that it was all eyeballs. After this New York Times story, I have to question every media source.
We're talking about the New York Times story on Chuck Schumer.
Yes. I question now how many news organizations, in order to keep those people happy so they can keep those exclusivity deals, I think, use that. Right? What's the relationship now between the politicians and the media, and how chummy are they? So I think it's a mix of both. But I also think Jason's 100% on the money with spineless Republicans not speaking out or anything. I will disagree with you a little bit, Jason. I think a majority of Americans are actually, a majority of conservatives I've seen are, to be a little more hopeful, standing up. Specifically, I've seen a lot of protests in Arizona about this. In different states in general. Have actually, activists are getting out more in force, and I think this is only going to reinvigorate the base. I really do. I think, just to be a little bit more hopeful than you on this one.
Yeah, I definitely hope that's true as well too. I mean, look, I just see the fact though is unfortunately during the Trump administration, when it came to that Russian collusion and everything, it's like the Republicans ran away from him completely.
Yeah.
And that was bad. And the thing is that this time around, this is the same thing, And the problem is that they want to separate. A lot of them want to separate themselves from January 6th. They don't even want to get into that, and they honestly don't even really want to get into digging into a lot of the stuff with Trump. They want to try to get into these other issues. But the problem is that Democrats right now have linked the January 6th, and now they basically are justifying the police state use of the FBI, the CIA, and now they're going to have the IRS, and they're saying and so they're justifying it. And the problem is now the Republicans, I see them being kind of like back on their feet, going, well, if we argue this, then we have to defend Trump, and they don't want to do that. Yeah. So it's just it's a weakness I see, and they're just gonna have to get brave and say, look, you know what, Democrats are playing the game. They're weaponizing the deep state against the American people, and we just got to stand up against it.
Yeah, and I think you highlighted an important point. There is such a disconnect between Republican politicians and their actual constituents. Because when I talk to a lot of conservative activists and just a lot of Republicans in these areas, they are so hungry for going after this and taking it head on, right? Fighting back against all of these things. But it seems like the politicians are afraid. It seems like, and it's, to me at least, it shows that there's such a disconnect between what the individual believes versus what the constituents, like you, me, and others who actually are going out and voting actually want.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And the bottom line, too, is you do have to look at where the money's coming from as well, too. Because, I mean, they're not going to, I mean, certain aspects of their argument is going to be, soft because they're going to have to, I mean, they're being lobbied for certain things, So, I mean, that you can see where they kind of fold on certain issues and then where they stand strong. A lot of it does, tailor to money at some degree. So, and that's another point that, but you could, I mean, if you look closely, you can see where that conflict is with them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I mean, and to be some of the bearer of good news, I mean, it seems like a lot of Republicans who aren't standing up against this are being questioned really hard, and a lot of the never Trump people who voted for the Trump impeachment are getting voted out of office in mass, right? There was another one, Jamie Butler. She just got she got challenged. She's an incumbent, so she's got a 95% advantage, probably all the money in the world, but her constituents didn't want her anymore, and they voted her out. I mean, in the primaries. So it seems like, I might be the eternal optimist on the show, but it seems like things are getting a little better.
See, that's a good point you mentioned about the primaries, though, because that was one of the things that I think I might have seen it was somebody in the Daily Wire. I don't know if it's Ben Shapiro or Michael Knowles was talking about, and they said that the Democrats, they were talking about how the Democrats are basically funding, politicians within primaries and picking the winners, for Republicans. So they're throwing money into it, and so the question would really be, though, is what is happening within the the primaries due to the excess money that Democrats are throwing into it, and then will those seats be won by Republicans because there's an overwhelming majority of that population is actually going to vote for that candidate, and that only time will tell because and granted, I mean, obviously, they always said that they were the ones who picked Trump, and that completely backfired to them. But the question is, though, is that how is that going to work in the Senate and the overall Senate, and how is that going to work in a lot of these governorships? And we're going to have to see, because I know, like in Pennsylvania, there's some questionable seats as well, and then throughout the country, you've seen this, so.
I think that problem, though, comes from mostly open primary seats. And the other good thing I hear from a lot of these races is there's such a distrust of anyone who hasn't been a Republican for longer than 4 years, 6 years. That's one of the major attack points that I see a lot of conservative candidates bringing about. So if the Democrats it tends to be that they run them in open primary states, and they've only been a Republican for maybe 8 months, 9 months. And they seem to be getting... the constituents can smell that, right? Conservative activists can tell that from a mile away.
But those are the same candidates. Those people who've not been Republicans longer than, this year are getting millions of dollars from the Democrats.
Oh, yeah. And you can see that, too, though. A lot. And
it's been documented.
Yeah. I mean, they have to. Thank God for the FEC documenting that. You can see those donations come through, luckily. And I think that's kind of where this plan is going to fall apart, because as it stands, if there is one of those candidates, for a lot more of the red states and a lot more of those swing states, conservative candidates actual conservatives are going to call them out on it. And that's not going to be like an open secret. That's going to be an open fact.
Well, let me ask, Jason, did you know that Democrats are literally funding in millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars are being donated by the Democratic National Committee to a certain group of Republican candidates? Did you know that?
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, them basically picking who would win these primaries. And so they're funding and flooding some of the money. So they were thinking, too, they were saying that some of the ones that appeared to be the most polarizing, and, in some cases they were, supporters of Trump. But the thing is that in a general election, they were saying that they're just going to get creamed because they just completely disconnect. And part of the reason is they want the Democrats want these very polarizing individuals to actually motivate, the base of the Democrats, in the primaries, because they were going to basically, what they want to do, they want to put Trump's face on every single one of these candidates to drive out the turnout, for the Democrats, because they figure that, Trump drives, Democrats out of the polls, which is true.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the Dark Brandon meme. That's kind of like the MAGA attack, ultra MAGA. I don't think it connects with people. I don't think it works the way they think it does. There is Dark Brandon is just Joe Biden with a Nazi eagle behind him. Ultra MAGA means I believe in America first. I don't find America first to be a negative. I don't think that, combining Joe Biden with Nazi imagery is going to make me feel good about Joe Biden. Am I wrong on that? Is that like an odd way to look at it?
I'm sort of. I think I've seen those images. I was kind of confused exactly what they're what their narrative and their point was on that stuff.
Well, the message that they're putting out is that, and this is somewhat inside baseball politics. John knows this. I know this. That they're trying to associate Joe Biden as this strong anti-hero, kind of like a Wolverine, that he's just this rogue guy who's going to be really cool and really protect people, and he's fighting the fight deep in the bowels of the deep state. That's the dark Brandon theme. That, oh yeah, it's let's go Brandon because that's cool. They're also at the same time trying to say that MAGA, which means Make America Great Again, not because people don't know that's what it means. They're trying to make you forget it. That's why they say MAGA, not Make America Great. Because if you say Make America Great, you have to think America is good. That we want to make America good again. That we're thinking about America first. They don't want to think about America first. That's not part of their ideology. So they want America last. Because if America's not first, it's last. That's why they're saying ultra MAGA, because they don't want you to connect with that. They don't want you to connect with America first. Well, yeah, it's my country. Of course I want my country to be great. I want it to be first. Who wouldn't? Only a fool would want their country to be anything but great or but the first thing on the mind of the government. So this is how they manipulate you. So that's what the imagery is meant to do. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, the thing is that, with American, this is the thing I've always wondered is what is going on with this current generation coming up. And maybe John can answer this, about, kind of looking at the perspective from, what other people are thinking. But during the Obama administration, when he was in there, he went on the whole apology tour, throughout, and then was apologizing for how, the United States has used, what they call the evil, imperial capitalist, power, and basically just sucked wealth and the life out of all these countries. And, and that impression, of our country was pushed onto younger generations. And the thing is I question whether or not how many people actually believe that and feel that way. And then now when somebody says make America great again, basically they just hate America, and they're thinking, well, we don't want America, to be, strong. We don't want it to be powerful. We don't want this, this massive, economic powerhouse, because they see it as bad, and I think part of it too is that you do have a lot of progressive, greenies who basically believe that, more productive you are, the greater your, carbon footprint, the bigger the family, greater carbon, footprint, and, live, own nothing, live in a, 8x8 cell and, be happy with that. It's
live in a pod, eat bugs. Yeah.
But what's your thought?
Yeah. I would say this about the Obama years, talking to people about it. There seems to be a backlash now. I don't think it's cool to be super liberal. I will say that. It seems to be the mass take, almost. And I think Obama has something to do with it, making it very mainstream, with the whole change and the way he used the internet. It seems like a lot of people I know now, how a lot of people who voted for Obama, their parents may have actually turned to more conservative means for more of a, whether it's Teenage Rebellion or it's, just the counterculture. I think they've turned more to conservatism, if now. And I think that's why we're seeing Gen Z being the more conservative. Because I think the generation before me, millennials, loved Obama. I don't think Gen Z feels the same way.
Interesting.
I really don't. And I think it's why we're seeing a lot more of why a lot of the memes and the things that people, like young people, are finding funny, like Pepe and things like that, are associated with the right. It's because young people are moving to the right and they think it's much more cool, or, I don't even want to say cool, but it's a lot more counterculture when, and I was having this debate with someone, and they said, well, the conservatism isn't the counterculture a couple of years ago because, Trump has the presidency, Republicans control the Senate and Congress. But that's not what the culture is, right? When liberals run the media, they run the magazines, they're everywhere. That's the only ads we see. People are going to get sick of it. And I think that's what the younger generation is. I think they're sick of this. They want more traditional values. They want I think a lot of young people crave that, and I think that's why we're seeing a rise in Jordan Peterson among young men, and we're seeing a rise in Candace Owens and these conservative commentators that are appealing to young people. I think that's why.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess the generation really is reaping the results of the Obama policies, and so they're feeling exactly what it was, and so they feel the culture, especially men. Men have been bashed and turned into. They want to basically castrate all men. So, so anybody says, "Hey, you can keep your testicles," they're basically going to say, "Hey, yeah, I like to do that." So they're going to go the other direction. So,
and to be fair too, a lot of young people like to make money. We've developed, people want to call it hustle culture, right? That seems to be what people are doing. People want to invest their money now. Crypto's really big with young people, right? The stock market is big with young people. More and more people. Look at the rise of Barstool Sports, where a lot of it is entrepreneurship. They promote, being an entrepreneur. So when they see Biden killing the economy, that they don't want that. Gen Z doesn't want that. They want to invest. They want to make money through different means, and that's why crypto's so big with young people. I think that's really one of the reasons, and I think that's why they're turning against another part of the reason that they're turning against Biden so fast with the Let's Go Brandon stuff.
Yeah, well, I think everybody wants an opportunity to basically, grow their wealth, and this current administration basically wants to confiscate and crush any sort of opportunity for wealth, and especially they've targeted demographic groups, specifically it's like if you have any sort of wealth or property, then you have white privilege, and because of that privilege you should give it all up to somebody else irregardless, and so they push that, and a lot of people are like, look, I want to work hard, I want to earn something, I want to build some wealth, and I guess you just can't do that, so or they don't want you to do it, so I could see that.
Well, let me do this, Jason, because I think other people may want to call in on a couple of things, especially since you just brought up a wonderful thing, because I think that falls right into what happened with Beto O'Rourke.
Yes.
So let me let you go. We're going to go into this new subject, and of course, people can call in about any subject that you want to at 607-242-1582. But I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us here, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
So, yes, folks, you too can call in. As you can hear, the phone line is on, and it's been fixed. Sorry. Slight. Again, I was running late today, but it's all in, and we're looking forward to hearing your call about whatever it is you want to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think, Jason made a good point, and that kind of brings me into the thought about what we see with Beto O'Rourke.
Yes.
The fake Hispanic.
My most popular J-Rest break, yes.
Yeah, and let's remember, he's appropriated Spanish culture. These are the rules of the left. He's appropriated Spanish culture because he's an Irish American. He has nothing to do with Spain or Spaniards or any Hispanic nation in the world. He's not even Latinx. He's just X. And Beto O'Rourke, this week, decided to demonize a bunch of his own supporters because they were laughing at him.
One of his constituents, yes.
They were laughing at him.
Yeah.
And they were laughing at him because, one, he knows even less about firearms than Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty hard to do. By the way, if you're wondering who she is, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is the woman who says that the AR-15 weighs as much as 10 boxes, whatever that's supposed to mean, and fires 50 caliber bullets. The only place that's true is in a Schwarzenegger movie.
Weighs more than 10 bread boxes.
That's
it's bigger than a bread box. And
yeah, it's bigger than a bread box, and it fires cannonballs.
Yeah,
I mean, that's essentially what she said. And Beto O'Rourke knows even less than she does. And so Beto O'Rourke, I don't know, most people have seen, you've probably heard that he cursed out one of his constituents, which I think is unprofessional and disrespectful on its own. But he cursed him out because Beto says, well, you were laughing about Uvalde. No. And here's the thing, folks. If you see the actual video, if you actually look at not just the 5 seconds of Beto cursing this guy out, but the 15, it's actually a 25-second video. If you watch the whole thing, Beto is down on his knee like he's doing Othello or King Lear, saying, oh, these AR-15s, they're designed to blow off people's heads through helmets at 500 yards, which is a lie. The AR-15 wasn't designed for that. It doesn't do that. He's just making stuff up. He saw a movie the night before and said, well, yeah, it was in a space movie and they were using lasers, but the AR-15 does the same thing. And he's saying that, and so someone who actually knows something about firearms laughed because it's ludicrous. He's talking about a grade B sci-fi film done by some student on a budget, and he's comparing that to the AR-15. But Beto's trying to spin it like, no, this is about Uvalde. You know, the kids who died that he is using as a linchpin in his campaign. Your emotions about those kids that died, that's his big promo to raise money and to try and get votes, which I think is evil as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's just a horrible scenario at every level. But some people seem to think it's a good thing. Let me ask you, John. You did a video on it. You saw the video.
Yes, I did.
Have I misrepresented anything that happened in context?
No, I don't think you did. People thought I misrepresented it too, but, I don't think you did. I didn't know there were so many Beto supporters.
Well, in the J-Rest break video that you did,
yes.
which is 1 minute.
Yes.
And in 1 minute you said, you sum it up.
Basically, I said someone from the audience laughed at the comment that it was a weapon of war. Beto got really, really butthurt and mad and cursed the guy out. And I said that wasn't a good thing to do. The guy wasn't laughing. And Beto misrepresented the case by saying, oh, well, he's laughing at dead kids. No, he's laughing at how wrong you're getting the AR-15 from the sounds of it. But Beto misconstrued that and lied about what happened. And I think he probably knew. But that's basically the case that I got from it. And that's what I broke down.
And here's my thought on that. And I advise people, take a look at the video for yourself, not the 5-second video. Look at the full video of what Beto was talking about. He wasn't talking about Uvalde. He was talking about the AR-15, the Armor Light 15. It isn't a assault rifle. That's not what it means. I know the media wants you to think that. Democrats want you to think that. They think you're stupid. I don't. It's Armor Light 15, Model 15, and that's not the M16. Never was the same. They're two different rifles.
Right.
Do two different things. And that's just a fact. Again, that's a physical scientific fact. I know AOC hates facts. This is one of them. But Beto O'Rourke, and you look at the video, he's talking about a rifle. And again, I'm not making this up. He is attributing the qualities of this rifle like Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, this mythical, mysterious Hollywood version of a firearm that doesn't exist in reality. And he's doing it while he's bending on his knees, pointing and gesturing towards his audience like he was doing a production of King Lear, which makes me think, and I want to hear what other people have to say about this, because you may think I'm wrong, especially you, Dal. I want to hear what you have to say about this, Dal. I think that when he went down on one knee talking about the AR-15, that was a setup. This whole thing was a setup, and that was a cue for one of his supporters, that's part of his team, who is in on this, to laugh so that Beto could then turn around and manipulate the public and make it seem like he's just big, tough guy. And he's, to disagree with him is to make fun of the Uvalde students that died because no one was able to defend themselves until a guy borrowed a rifle from his buddy and went in and did what the police wouldn't do because they were too progressive. You think I'm wrong, John?
I don't think you're wrong. No, I think you're probably right on it. And I'd love to hear some of the people who had comments for us, Colin. I want to hear them talk to you about your take and my take and everything. And
yeah, and it's not a conspiracy. I'm just going by the evidence that we have from the video that I am watching. That it is so. I have never seen a political candidate who suddenly, as he's talking about a super serious, very important issue to America, and suddenly goes down on his knees and he's being dramatic, both in his wording and in his actions, and suddenly there's a reaction in the crowd. I've never seen that before.
No, I haven't either, yeah.
You've never seen Obama go down on his knees as he's talking about Obamacare, or when he's, we saw him bow, but you never saw him on his knees begging people and trying to make it more dramatic, anything like the beer summit or anything, or DACA. You never saw that.
No. It was almost Shakespearean in a way.
I mean, literally, that's what I'm saying.
Politics is theater, but still. I've never seen anything like it. It seemed like that to me. I don't know, though, because I wasn't there, of course. I don't know who said it, nor did anyone know who was the one that
in the video that
laughed. Yeah, do we get a good look at them?
In the video that I was looking at, which showed 2 minutes before the actual cursing out, and I think another minute and a half afterwards, one of the people doing the live stream shifts the camera, and they're looking at least the direction of where that voice came from. Mm-hmm. And all you see there are Beto supporters. Every single person standing in that area has a sign that says Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah.
I would tend to believe that if there was someone who was going to laugh at Beto O'Rourke about his misgivings or misunderstanding.
Yeah, you would think they would have a sign or something.
That they wouldn't be carrying a Beto O'Rourke sign.
Yeah. That's weird. That is wonky. Yeah. There's a lot of questions with that, though. There's a lot of questions with that whole case. It seems out of the ordinary, but if people disagree and they're Beto fans, I'd love for them to talk to me. I'd love to have that conversation. It was just a really weird case to me. It just was really weird.
Yeah, I think this was a setup for TikTok. I think this was something, and as user has been banned, says performative politics. I think that's exactly what it was. He was making
literally
a performance.
Yeah, literally performative. I mean, he got down on one knee. The whole
everyone stopped paying attention to him. Everyone stopped paying attention to Beto O'Rourke, the fake Hispanic, because, well, no one cares about him appropriating Hispanics anymore. No one, Democrats rejected him, and 3 different races now, including the presidential.
It fits the tone that he's trying to set himself up for. Let's not forget he was kicked out of the school. Was it the school board meeting or was it the press conference with
Greg Abbott? The
press conference with Greg Abbott, and he made a huge scene of that. I mean, that's the only time I see him get national attention, not when he actually speaks or talks about policy or anything like that. So I would be inclined to agree with you, Mike, on that it's all performative. It reminds me exactly of that press conference looking back.
Yeah, and once again, no one in the news media has actually pointed out to the public in anything that I saw. Not one person stopped and said, but this wasn't about Uvalde. You weren't talking about Uvalde, the children. You were talking about a firearm.
Yeah.
And you were making ridiculous claims about that firearm. That's when the incident happened. No one's saying that. The news media is completely obfuscating that. You're not supposed to think about it. You're not supposed to consider the context. They're only going out of context, saying, look at him. That's those evil Republicans again. They're laughing about dead children when that wasn't ever part of the context. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watched the video several times. I watched your J-Rest break about it.
Yeah, which got negative coverage.
Yeah, well, it's because of the comments.
Oh, I love it. I think it's really funny to see the dislike bar. Like, even on this most recent one on Starbucks that's blowing up as we speak, by the way. We just hit 174 views
Okay.
on it in about the span of 40 minutes. It's like 50% likes. I mean, it's pretty split down the middle, you know. But I'm not afraid to say what people aren't saying online. I'm not afraid to say Beto O'Rourke is a beta male.
Well,
To quote
yeah.
Cecilia Peterson, Beto. I'm not afraid to say that, you know. I'm not afraid to call him out for his disingenuous comments.
His
I'm not-
antics.
yeah, and I'm not afraid to call him a loser because he's lost the last 3 elections he's ran in.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is what it is, though. I mean, I think the way the media portrayed it, the way he portrayed it, that's the only way he's going to get attention. And let's be frank, he's down by 7 points. He's down. We were just talking about.
I say 15.
You say 15. I think it'll be lost by 7. Still a large margin.
Yeah.
That's not crazy to say. That's a large margin.
Yeah.
And I mean, before, let's remember when he was running for president, he got a room of 45 people, maybe.
Well, that's still more than Biden.
Yeah, that is more than Biden. That is true.
Like by 8 times.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
It's even more people than what Kamala Harris had in a room.
yeah. It's
So I give him that. I'll give him that. He was more popular than Kamala Harris, and he could get more people into a room than Joe Biden.
oh, whoop-de-doo.
But he's a failure.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo. That's not hard. You know, he got more than a dementia patient and someone progressives like to call a police officer. You know.
And just to catch up with people, so User's Been Banned mentions that he finds it odd how these events happen only with AR-15s. That out of the hundreds of, out of the thousands of semi-automatic rifles out there, including the Ruger Mini 14, which does essentially the same thing as the AR-15.
Yeah.
That not one AK-47, not one Ruger Mini 14, no other firearms ever used except the AR-15. It seems really odd considering criminals every day use every other type of firearm in the world for all their crimes. But this is the only weapon that's used by these crazy psychopaths. That is an interesting correlation, but that's not causation.
Yeah.
But it is a good point there, User. And Dal did look at the video, which we're going to include the link at the end of the show, after the show. He looked it up independently, and Dal says, so he looked at the Beto video, and his guess is that the person laughed at the over-the-top, dramatized, and exaggerated body movements, which were comical.
Yeah, they were. It was like a bad Shakespeare. I've seen high school productions that do a better acting job than Beto. You're right, because he does get down on the one knee, and he's like, you know, holding the skull to be or not to be the AR-15 or not to AR-15, you know.
Yeah.
That's a good line. But that's a really funny line now that I said it.
That is good, yeah.
It's comical. It is. And he's making himself to be an absolute clown, and someone laughed at that. Or, like Mike's theory is, someone in the crowd, you know, decided to take that opportunity, and that was the cue, and utilized it.
Yeah, because it's so ridiculous. It's so out of the norm. It is such an aberration, and it makes no sense because it doesn't emphasize his point politically. Mm-hmm. There isn't another politician in any race I've ever seen, even, I don't care how comical, the guy who in the Rent's Too Damn High didn't do theatrics as big as Beto's theatrics that day.
No.
And that guy, the black Colonel Sanders, was pretty much into his dramatics. And he wasn't as dramatic as Beto. If you don't remember that, go and look it up. The Rent's Too Damn High Party.
I was talking about that with someone the other day, so there you go. We're bringing a full circle here. But yeah.
My memory is deep.
Yes, I know. But yeah, that sums up the Beto, and like I said, it got 1,300 views on that short, and I got a lot of comments from the 5 Beto fans out there. I'm convinced it's only like 5 or 6 people. I still am. You know, this is the in going back. You want to go back to his theatrics? Let's talk about the presidential debate where he says, "Hell yeah, we're gonna take your AR-15s."
Yeah.
Right. Hell yeah, we're gonna take your guns.
And he was serious. He's like, hell yeah, we're gonna take
right, and he does the whole pose like Michael Moore did.
Yeah.
And when he gets the gun out from Bowling for Columbine, he does that whole pose and everything. Like,
He's very much into his theatrics, which is also why no one takes him seriously, because that has no place in politics.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to go to Hollywood, he should just go to Hollywood. Stop being in politics.
The only person who can do those theatrics was Donald J. Trump.
Well, he's more verbal. He doesn't.
He
never saw Trump
annihilates his opponents. Yes.
Yeah, Trump has never done King Lear during a speech.
True. That is true. He did make fun of the one reporter, but that's the only real time I can think of.
But that's the only real physical gesture.
Yeah, which was awesome.
And he got mocked for that because it was theatrical.
His supporters loved it, but no, you're completely right. You're completely on the money yet again, Mike. I can't say your take on it is crazy.
And again, the news media is being disingenuous with the public by lying to them about the context, so that they will so that you will support Beto for something that is false, for a lie. They are trying to push Beto in a lie because they will not tell you the truth of the context, so that you could make up. Maybe people will think Beto is right in his reaction. Maybe. But at least be honest enough to let them make the choice for themselves. Isn't that what the First Amendment is about?
Yeah. And if you think it's crazy that someone planted someone in the audience, you're out of your mind. That's politics. If you want to back, baseball politics here, a little backdoor look, that is one of the most common tactics people use. All parties, to softball questions, planting people in the audience, that's a common thing. That's right out of Rules for Radicals, pretty much. I mean, that isn't a crazy conspiracy theory.
No, it's common.
That is common practice across the aisle.
Yeah, everyone does.
Yes, exactly. So if you're like, oh, Mike's getting all conspiratorial about this, no, Mike is pretty on the money here, I think, with this.
We've seen these things. Yeah, it's as user says, it's manipulation 101. And I saw one of the comments on the JRES break, and they said, one of the comments was, well, we should beat people who would laugh about Uvalde. And wait a minute, let's remember, human beings have odd reactions. It's kind of like what Dow was saying, that, and I've seen this at funerals. I've seen it at funerals. I've seen it, and sadly, I'm old enough that I'm seeing more and more funerals. But also from the Bronx, I've seen funerals a lot, and sometimes people will laugh. Mm-hmm. It's an unconscious kind of reaction to stress,
and it's their First Amendment right. And you know what? I'm going to tie this into Rushdie.
Oh, Salman Rushdie.
Yeah, let's talk about
who just got stabbed.
This is a perfect time to tie in. Even if he did laugh, he has no right to be beaten in the United States of America, because that's your First Amendment right to say whatever you want, right? Within there's small limitations there that Congress has made known. Mm-hmm. Yelling fire in a crowded room, and right. Yeah. But that goes straight to the issue. No one, regardless of how controversial their opinions, has a right to get stabbed or beaten for those opinions.
Yeah, because then you're suddenly in the realm of Iran trying to kill Salman Rushdie because he wrote a fiction book.
Yes, and for those who don't know about Salman, do you want to cover him? Or I know somewhat about him, Mike. I'm sure you do as well. Do you want to cover for your audience who may not know who that is?
Well, Salman Rushdie, this is going back
to the 90s.
Yeah, to 1990s. Yeah. Salman Rushdie is a gentleman who was raised.
Muslim. Yeah.
He was raised in a Muslim family. Mm-hmm. He walked away from his Muslim faith. I believe he's
now he's an atheist.
Yeah, I believe he's an atheist.
Yes, he is a staunch atheist.
Okay. So he walked away from religion altogether, and he wrote a book, a fiction, which prominently featured the Prophet Muhammad.
Right. It was a satirical look at the life of Muhammad, if I remember correctly.
Right. It was he made fun of Muhammad, which
is a big no-no.
And if you're not familiar with Islam, that's the same thing as for an Orthodox Jew or an Orthodox Christian going out and mocking God.
Yeah.
Or denouncing or cursing out God. It is a massive, massive sin. And the reaction from Iran, the people that Joe Biden is trying to make the Iran nuclear deal with.
The leader of Iran, by the way. Let's make that clear. This was the leader of Iran at the time.
Yeah, the Khomeini.
Yes.
The Ayatollah Khomeini.
Yes, put out a death warrant on him.
Absolutely, and it still exists to this day.
Yes, it does.
In fact, it's even higher today. They put out $4 million death hit list on Salman Rushdie. It is now worth even more than $4 million today. It is I think it's close to $10 million. The man had to spend 30 years of his life in hiding in Britain under guard because these guys were trying to kill him. And what did we see just 2 days ago?
Yes, he was stabbed when giving a speech. And it's important to note, the death warrant was so bad that Rushdie actually lied and said he regrets his book and everything because he didn't want any more death threats because they were getting so bad. And then he came back out and was like, well, no, I was just saying that. He came out and said, I just want to live my life, was giving a speaking event in upstate New York.
Yes.
And someone came up on stage and stabbed him.
Kind of like what happened to Lee Zeldin, except this guy wasn't
Succeeded.
drunk at the time.
Yes. And this is exactly almost like what happened to Charlie Hebdo. As well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is not a, new concept. And he's getting well. He probably will lose eyesight. He might lose an eye. And let me make this known. I disagree with him on a lot of things.
Okay.
He's a very staunch liberal. I'm a staunch conservative. We disagree on a lot. But I'll defend his right to say whatever he wants. And we will get along on some issues, too. But
Well, that's true of most people.
yes, right. I can still find quite a bit of common ground with him. But he has a right to say and mock and satirize whoever he wants. That's his right. That's his First Amendment right in this country. So, and it's crazy to me that that Biden isn't saying very much about this. That he's, we're going to go through with the Iran nuclear deal. It's insanity, Mike.
Well, I find it interesting that we have two of the same kind of events. Mm-hmm. Lee Zeldin is on stage. A Democrat doesn't like what he's saying, tells their supporters to go after him. Mm-hmm. And within an hour or two, one of those supporters shows up on a stage with a spiked knuckles.
Yeah, it was.
And tries to stab him in the throat.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here we are in upstate New York again, another person who has a point of view that is different than what the Ayatollah wants. The Ayatollah says, go out and find this guy and kill him. And now we see that someone attempted to kill the 72-year-old man. This is a 72-year-old man. And they try and stab him. Do you notice how there's such a mirror here? The Democrats are mirroring the Ayatollah Khomeini. Mm-hmm. They're mirroring. When we listen to AOC, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, as they say, go out and find those people, harass those people, go after those people wherever they may be, when they're with their families, when they're in restaurants. This is what they are saying. They are inciting these people so much that we saw one of their followers from California, another progressive capital in America, went from California to Washington, D.C., to Maryland, carrying a firearm illegally so that he could assassinate a Supreme Court justice. And now we're seeing some of the other things that they're inciting, like in Minneapolis, after Maxine Waters talks about we have to punish people for crimes that they're not even charged with. And then there's mass shootings an hour after she says that. AOC and the riots that have followed some of the things that she has said. And now we have Kathy Hochul making her statement, and immediately after there's someone trying to be stabbed. It's the same thing as what we see happening in Iran. And no one I know of would say that Iran is a fair, honest broker. They're the global leader of terror. Why are Democrats, progressives specifically, trying to follow the lead of dictators, evil dictators, that would kill people just because they exist? And if you think I'm making it up, remember, in the Middle East, where we're all like, ooh, America's so bad. They throw gay people off of buildings. They stone women to death because the women learned how to read. And this is the kind of extremity that we're seeing from progressives today, saying, oh, you disagree with me, you're evil, I'm justified in using any type of violence against you. This is what they are doing. And that is a playbook from some of the worst dictators we've seen in the world. That scares me.
Yeah, I think you summed up perfectly, yeah. And it just goes, and it seems like the left has that same idea, like we said with the comment, right? He should be beaten for laughing.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the same road. It's the same road,
yeah.
the same path.
Yeah.
That we're saying, oh, we're going to get on that Twitter. We're going to get on that post, that video. We're going to leave a comment saying, be silent or we will hurt you. We are going to come after you. This is the kind of threats. And, I obviously looked at the video to make sure it was in context, and then I
Mike,
busted his balls about it.
Yeah, I called Mike up afterwards because I was like, did I get something wrong in the video? Mike, double check my work on this one, Because, for the JRES break, I always have Mike, look it over afterwards, and I go, if I'm wrong, call me out. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll take down the video in a second.
Of course, because it's one thing to have an opinion. It's another thing to say, oh, I'm factually making this up. No, we won't do that. It's one thing to say, okay, here's the evidence, and I'm looking at the evidence and I say it's a staged event. Why? Because of the theatrics that are involved. I think that's a fair statement. I'm not making it up. I'm just going with the conclusion on the evidence. Mm-hmm. But this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is, and I think, and again, the news media is complicit in this and pushing that. They're happy to present every word of what Maxine Waters says, every word of AOC saying, don't listen to the Supreme Court. Revolt. You got to be in the revolution. We listened to Nancy Pelosi talking about tracing people down. And when we see violence as a consequence of their words, the news media says, no, you're too dumb. You misunderstand. You're taking them out of context, even though you're quoting them word for word. No, that's not so bad. Trump, though, he's evil. And any Republican, they're evil for saying things that aren't anywhere in the same realm of the universe. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Thank you, Donna. I see you joined us today. Thank you for joining us and mentioning. She mentions that Trump is being blamed for January 6th, not the threats you're talking about. Well, it's the same thing. President Trump is being blamed for something he had no control over. 300,000 people were in D.C. Thousands entered the Capitol. He didn't ask them to do that. There's no evidence of that. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. They're taking him out of context and they're trying to say, well, he said this part of a paragraph. He said 3 words in a paragraph, and that must mean violence. Really? Have you heard what Maxine Waters says? Because it's not very kind to white people. And it's not very kind to most people. You ever listen to what AOC, listen to what she says about rich people. They're violent as hell. And I don't have to take a sentence. I can take 3 or 4 paragraphs of what they're saying. And they're violent as hell. And I'm keeping it in context. I think that's a big deal. Sarah Huckabee too, yes. I understand. This is an insanity, so we need to call that out.
That is true. Yeah.
And I think we have to remember that we are being manipulated on so many levels. When we're told, well, the progressive did it, it's okay. Anyone else does it, you're evil, you're demonic, and you have to be punished. The left wants to make a wild, radically unheard of conclusion. Yeah, there's Russia collusion. There's no evidence. Oh yeah, Trump Steele dossier, completely fabricated. We believe it. Hunter Biden's laptop can't be true. We're seeing progressives just make leaps of logic that make no sense based on the facts that are in front of us. And then when someone says, oh, here's the evidence I have in front of me from a Democrat or a progressive that said this, and it doesn't make any sense, and they're going, oh, no, but that's demonic. What the hell kind of rules do we have here? How do we run a government based on that? I don't understand it.
I don't get it either.
Let me jump to something else. Let me jump to something else.
All right.
Because I know you wanted to bring this up.
Oh, yeah. And I also want to thank everyone who's checking out the JRS break today. We've almost hit 700 views.
Oh, there it goes.
Already.
Sweet.
And while we were talking, in the last 40 minutes, we've almost hit 700 people. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe button.
Told you it's popular on the channel. I love it.
I still don't understand. I'm putting.
I don't.
I still don't think they're great, but people like them, and we have a 60% like rate. So if those 40% who don't like me want to call in, I'd love to talk to you. I love my fans.
607-242-1582. We're happy to talk about the JRS break and any of the coverage that we've done.
Especially the Starbucks video, yeah.
And anything that we talk about in this channel. But
I want to talk about something that Mike didn't catch. So it always feels good when I find a story Mike didn't catch.
Go ahead,
yeah, so today it came out that the State Department has barred 5 individuals, I believe it's 5, for selling weapons and military technology to the Chinese. We have found Chinese spies in the Navy. So there was a officer, she was a female officer. Her husband was her husband's clients, who were very rich, powerful Chinese businessmen, wanted the military technology that we had here. His wife was in charge of ordering it for the United States Navy. So she was deployed, and the shipment came in. They took a look and said, well, wait a minute, we didn't order this. And she said, well, it's just camping equipment. That was the excuse she told her Navy officer.
Camping equipment.
She said it was camping equipment. So they took a look, they disabled the technology, and they went about and they have arrested her, and she's agreed to a plea deal of, I believe it's only 30 months.
What?
Yes. It was
30 months?
I believe so, yes. Yes, let me, I always like to double check my information. As you know, Mike, I'm pulling it up. We can't pull the article up because we are having a bit of technical difficulties. But I'm pulling up the article now.
So let's get this right. Back in the 1950s, we killed people for selling any kind of information, classified information in the United States to another country. We've gone from the Goldsteins, and we've gone to Eric Swalwell sleeping with a spy as he's on the intelligence committee, and that's okay. And now we have someone who is caught selling United States technology and classified information to China, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, that want to destroy America. And we're saying, well, that's only 30 months. Are we kidding? I mean, maybe General Milley signed off on that and said, hey, it's China. Let me make a phone call because, he has a direct line to them and they like to talk to him. I don't know. Maybe he thinks maybe they called him and said, no, let her go. She's really a good girl. Don't punish her. And he said, okay, because he's absolutely a traitor, in my opinion. But I find this is ridiculous that they would have such that's an insult to Americans. This is national security.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, I have the article up now. I had to find it quick. I want to make sure I got that plea deal right.
Okay.
Because I don't want to spread misinformation, as you know.
Who's the article with? What company?
Epic Times.
Epic Times.
Epic Times is reporting on it. Yep. They were the ones who reported. Yeah, so she pled guilty to 30 months in prison and a $20,000 fine. Her husband was given a 46-month prison term in February 2020, and now it's insanity.
We used to give people the death penalty for this.
Yes, we used to hang traitors, and now because she was selling technology, she literally was illegally trading arms with China. Her and her husband, she's only facing 30 months and $20,000. That's nuts.
We have Democrats right now
Yes.
who are trying to say that President Trump should be assassinated. We have actually seen this on Twitter, and it wasn't removed on Twitter, that people have said that President Trump should be assassinated because there is a theory that maybe the FBI didn't get all the secret documents and he had a secret document in his possession, not being traded, not being given to anyone, it's locked in a room that the FBI was already aware of, and they were the ones who wanted that room locked. And because he merely had possession of it, we've got Democrats and progressives that are saying that President Trump should be killed. And we see these Chinese spies are actively endangering the lives of American citizens, and that's only worth 46 months. Something is wrong, folks. Something is wrong with that.
Something's very wrong with that. And when I heard it, this isn't getting talked about, right? We have found spies. Why are we?
But think about it. This isn't the first set of spies we found.
No.
We have four members of ISIS that are trying to come into the United States. We caught them because they were trying to kill a president, former president.
George W. Bush.
We have
The assassination
John Bolton.
attempt. Yeah, that was
Assassination attempt that just came out this week on John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. They have $1 million bounty on Mike Pompeo's head. And now we have spies that are infiltrating our military, because of the warm, fuzzy feelings. Maybe if there weren't so many warm, fuzzy feelings and if they weren't so busy trying to teach people about their pronouns and we're actually, securing the nuclear, our weapon systems, then maybe these guys wouldn't be doing what they have done.
Yeah. Yeah, why is it the American people more mad about this? We have an assassination attempt on our soil. This isn't foreign soil, this is our soil. We have spies stealing, trying to trade military secrets. And China and Iran, we know who did it. It's not like we don't know who these spies belong to. We know who did it. We know what countries are behind this, and we are doing nothing. In fact, we are going to strengthen our relationships with Iran. And but
No, get it right. We are selling our strategic reserve oil, 6 million barrels, to China. The same people who are finding out our national security secrets and endangering American citizens' lives. We are actively trying to put together an Iran nuclear deal, the same deal that then Secretary, 2016, then Secretary John Kerry on CNBC, January 16th of 2016, was on there and said that America was directly funding global terror through the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And these are the people we're trying to make our best buddies under the Biden and Harris administration.
Yeah.
And we're demonizing someone for possibly having a document that was declassified because he was the guy who could declassify it.
Yes.
I don't understand this. Does this make sense to anyone?
I want to hear people call in about it.
I mean, if someone thinks we're misunderstanding it, if you think that President Trump having a document that he had as president that was classified, that he declassified as president, that the FBI knew about because they were there twice before, if you think that's more dangerous than China knowing about our military secrets, you think it's less dangerous than Iran being funded to promote global terror in the world, please call in and tell me why. Please tell me and John why.
Yeah.
607-242-1582. Because I think there is a significant magnitude of difference there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
But if we got it wrong, we will hear you out.
Yeah.
We will respectfully listen to you and tell us why that's wrong. Mm-hmm. Because I'm happy to hear that. And the phone's working. Jason called in. You can call in too. We're not going to turn off the phone.
Yeah.
Call in right now.
Yeah.
I think it's insulting. And again, and it just tells us we've got a Navy that's worried about pronouns. We've got our army that's worried about feeling warm and fuzzy about your two moms. We've got Eric Swalwell sleeping with actual spies and hiring additional spies to his campaign. We have Dianne Feinstein employing a Chinese spy for 20 years. People forgot about that one. I didn't. I remember when I did the video on that.
She played the long game, yeah.
Dianne Feinstein's driver, 20 years, a spy for China. And he would even go into, she loved this driver. He was her best buddy. He would actually go to events on her behalf representing Senator Dianne Feinstein. That's how deep that guy was involved in her political life, in the life of the American government. And he was a spy for 20 years.
Dems need to get a new HR department. If it's this easy,
The Confucius Institute has been working in overdrive.
Oh, yeah. Our friends at the Confucius Institute, the ones that sent the lawyer. To be fair, Binghamton University, do they still have their Confucius
Yep,
Institute?
they renewed the contract.
Yes, so for those who don't know, the Confucius Institutes are on college campuses across the country, one even in our backyard. And as a student there, I was a little worried because the United States government and the Senate have said these are used for foreign espionage and for spies to gather information on America and to produce pro-China propaganda. I wrote an email to Binghamton University to which they responded with their legal team.
Yeah.
They sent their legal team after me when I asked them, do you think this is a great idea, guys?
Yeah.
I just want to know what this has been deemed a threat to national security. What's your thoughts on this? You know,
The answer was cease and desist.
Yes. The answer was, hi, John, I'm the lawyer for the university.
Yeah, stop talking about this.
Yes. Don't shut up about it. We don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's...
Hey, Harvey Stenger, you can call in too. He's the president of Binghamton University.
I don't think he wants to talk to me.
And Harvey Stenger, who's under investigation from the Department of Education. Yes, that case is still going on.
Yes.
Who is involved in a lawsuit for breach of contract, denying students their First Amendment rights, and inciting, if not collaborating, with a riot. Yes, Harvey, I haven't forgotten about any of those things. And that's just one college where Confucius Institute is. In one college where Confucius Institute is, we saw in 2016 that the faculty were having classes about Stop White People. 2016.
I forget about that too, yeah.
I don't forget about anything. I remember that article. And then they went on to attack or threaten Dr. Art Laffer.
Yes.
They threatened students. They had mobs of 200 students trying to attack and intimidate 3 people, including a beautiful young woman who's all of 5'1".
Our friend Lacey.
Yes.
Our
Who
friend,
is a wonderful Republican ninja.
yeah, great person.
And I wouldn't be surprised if she would have beat half of them down by herself because she's a
definitely
badass.
Oh, yeah, she's been working out lately. I've seen her workout videos. Yeah, she's gotten really in shape. She could take them all out.
Oh, yeah.
But you want to come full circle, Mike? You know who's really good friends with Harvey Stanger? Our buddy at WNBF, Bob Joseph.
Bob Joseph loves Harvey Stanger.
Yeah, you want to go full circle on the media and the friendships and all that stuff. Do you think that's why Bob didn't really cover what happened at Binghamton University? Because
Bob didn't talk about the riot that happened right after.
No.
Dr. Laffer was there. He didn't investigate anything like I did when Binghamton police officers told me directly, and I have the audio, which I have submitted to proper individuals, but the audio of the chief of security for Binghamton University saying that police from the surrounding area were coming to contain the riot, and Binghamton University turned them away. told them not to come and allowed the riot to continue. I have the audio tape on that if anyone wants to dispute it. If we have to go to the court and submit that, assuming that I haven't already, I'll do it. It's not a problem. I can verify it.
Yeah.
So
just shows how even local media is in bed with powerful people.
yeah, but Bob won't talk about that. He won't tell the people in the community or America that our college is being investigated right now by the Department of Education and may be defunded. These are kind of important things. Again, it goes back to the media. They're picking and choosing the story they're going to tell you and the way they tell it to you because they want you to have a certain feeling. You're supposed to think that Binghamton University is a wonderful... Hey, little guy. Sorry for the background noise, folks. Yes, that is a baby. No, he's not in the room. No. I'm talking to the dog now. Sorry. Anyway, yes, folks, you're supposed to think that these people are wonderful. They're angels. Binghamton University, higher education. You're going to be taught everything that's important to China, everything that promotes China, because some members of the news media don't have the balls to stand up and say, hey, maybe that's not the best thing in the world for our students. Maybe your ideas promote the disappearing of entire religious sects. Maybe that's kind of bad.
Yeah. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth, but just going full circle. Going full circle. You want to talk about how in bed these powerful people are killing stories. Well, there you go. There's another example, potentially. And I know Bob won't accept my calls anymore. His screener's gotten really good, so...
Well, Bob doesn't like anyone who would actually provide evidence against the position that he wants to hold. Mm-hmm. Bob spent 12 minutes. This is how bad our news media is, folks. I contacted the only news talk program in the Southern Tier. And I'm talking to their lead, Bob Joseph, a man who knows me at the time for 6 years. I have been in the studio dozens of times, and he's seen me at events where I was covering them side by side with all the rest of the news media. He knows exactly who I am, knows me by name and by sight, and we've spoken many times. And I called in one time because our local politician was about to be indicted because he violated New York State regulations.
Who was this?
Dan.
Oh, yeah.
And when I brought that up, he spent 7 minutes out of a 10-minute call questioning my name. Because I use, as everyone who watches the show, I use Michael Voss. That's not my name. It's my federal legal alias. Because when I was a stockbroker, people had trouble spelling Vasquez. Something that I've explained back in 2013 on his program when I was running for Congress. They're interchangeable. They're both legal names for me. You see that when you fill out forms and they say, do you have a legal alias? Yes, I actually do have a legal alias registered with the federal government. It's Voss, V-A-S-S, because it's easier to spell than Vasquez for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And he knows this, and he's known it since 2013. And rather than actually talking about a corrupt politician who's facing indictment, and instead of talking to the public and letting them know that they have a corrupt politician that could negatively impact their lives, he spent 7 out of 10 minutes talking about my name.
Yep.
That tells you what the level of news media is in this nation.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying, folks. It's terrifying.
It is.
But I'm pissed at, why is Eric Swalwell still in office?
That's a really good question.
It's not like we don't know that the FBI investigated him.
Yeah.
They know that he was sleeping or allegedly sleeping with a spy. We know she was a spy.
Yes.
It's a question of whether or not he was sleeping with her. I would hope he was, because at least he got something out of this, and that she hired other additional Chinese spies to work on his re-election campaigns.
Yeah, that is.
This is all factual information.
I know, yeah.
This is all stuff that the FBI have confirmed, that Eric Swalwell himself has confirmed happened, except for the sleeping with her. He never actually answered that question.
No, he did not. But yeah, you can kind of assume.
Why is he still in office? Folks, why do we have someone like that in our elected office?
Where is he representative of? California?
California.
Oh, big shock there. Big shock there.
Yeah.
Oh, Well, it's the same reason I ask why Republicans continue to elect these never-Trump Republicans. But it seems to be going the wayside now, luckily. My favorite, John Clownco, from New York, absolutely despise him.
Which one?
John Clownco. Catco.
Oh, Catco.
Yeah, I call him Clownco. But it's a good question. But you have any other stories, Mike?
Let's see.
Because it's getting,
We got another half hour.
Okay. Anyone wants to call in to talk to us about it, or talk, like I said, the J-Rush break is about to hit 800 views, so if you guys want to call in and talk about what's going on with Starbucks.
What is going on with Starbucks? I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So basically, New York Post had an article today talking about how Starbucks stores are closing across in major cities, and probably one of the biggest ones in New York City is facing a lot of problems and might close because because Starbucks, as you know, is kind of a woke company, right?
No.
Yes. So they were giving out free coffee and they were, not kicking people out. Now they're starting to do heroin in the bathrooms and
because
and sleeping everywhere. Yeah.
Well, they had a company policy that because two questionable individuals of color were using the bathroom in a questionable manner, and that store said you can't. The restroom is for our patrons, customers. Those questionable individuals said, well, that's racist. So the immediate answer from Starbucks was, well, of course, we'll open up our bathrooms to everyone in the public. And now they have, I know
issues.
In California, there have been homeless people living in their bathrooms.
Yeah, and I basically broke down that's what's going on. And they closed 16 stores, all of which were profitable, but because of how unsafe they were, they closed them down. And they planned on doing more. All of which in major liberal-run cities.
So let's see. They
Two of which
defunded
are
the
also
police.
unionized.
They
Yes.
defunded the police, opened up the bathroom to potentially drug addicts and homeless individuals who may or may not have mental issues.
Yes.
Many homeless people do.
Yes.
And before you say anything about, before any of our critics say anything about Mike hates homeless people, Mike has been a homeless person. I talk about that on a regular basis.
Yes.
And I try and help people about that. So get off my back on that one.
Yes, they're fans.
For our,
I call them fans. I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. But
those critics, I love
big
those
fan.
guys.
Big fan.
And because of those consequences, notice there's a chain of consequences which Democrats never want to admit.
And that's why it has a 60% likely ratio on my video, yeah.
Because it's a consequence.
Yes.
Oh, look, you defund the police, you open up the bathrooms to questionable individuals doing very questionable things, normally illegal things in any state except maybe California or New York. And then the business closes, which hurts the consumers, hurts the employees. We're talking about unemployment. We're talking about families that can no longer feed themselves or their kids because the job doesn't exist anymore. And the bad guys are Republicans and conservatives that say, hey, I got a neat idea. Keep the bathroom for patrons.
Yeah.
Be selective.
Yeah, and it seems like the CEO of Starbucks is finally going to put his foot down. And like I said, he closed 16 stores, I believe. 16 or 12. But 2 of which were unionized now. He closed 2 unionized stores as well.
Oh, I feel so bad for the union.
Yeah, so, it shows, and he said if it comes down to it, he's going to close more stores, even if they're profitable. Doesn't matter. And they tell all these horror stories in the article, and you can read the article on the New York Post. Mike, you can probably.
I'm sure there are individuals who.
Yeah, who are. They don't get pulled out unless the cops are called.
But there's no cops.
Yes, exactly. That's the problem, because New York City will release them the next day, and they'll go back and they'll destroy, the Starbucks, and they'll make it uncomfortable and unsafe for the employees. No wonder you're closing stores. And now Howard Schultz has said, well, if you have to, make it drive-through only. Make it this. Start closing down services at this point, because it is so unsafe because of our policies we previously had in place.
So the employees and consumers have to be punished because they wanted to listen to and adhere to a woke culture policy.
Yes. Woke company is not woke enough for the woke cities that they helped create. And Howard Schultz ran as a presidential candidate, if I remember.
I believe he did.
As
for
a Democrat.
For a very short period.
Democrat, progressive, yes. So you get what you reap what you sow. It's that simple.
This is so.
And it's not like these are unprofitable stores. These are making money, but because of the safety risks to their employees, and they can't get anyone to work it.
No, I wouldn't want. How much money are you going to pay me? You know how much it would cost to pay me to go in and say, oh, by the way, don't mind the drug dealing. I'm giving a hypothetical here, but don't mind the drug dealing shenanigans going on in the bathroom. Just make sure that the latte gets out on time. What?
Yeah.
What?
And by the way, that's not a hypothetical. They have arrested people for shooting up in the bathrooms. That's not a crime. That's not, not a crime, but that's not a hypothetical. That has happened.
No. In New York State, depending on where you are, that's not a crime because, they give out needles. Biden has spent $30 million to give junkies crack pipes and needle kits because, they have to safely be able to
that's also
do
give
drugs.
His own son that.
This
His own son, right? I mean, that's part of it probably, but save his son some bucks. But
these are all, and mind you, folks, these are all stories I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Imagine when I do my research, the stuff that I find that I forgot about.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm going back a decade on some of these things. This is the consequences of what's going on when the media is absolutely adamantly sure you're going to forget and you're just going to go by whatever headline they put out there.
That's true, yeah.
That's just evil.
And that's what the most recent J-Risk break talked about.
And so they're upset because you said close the store.
They're upset because my take was literally get woke, go broke. I mean, they're losing money on this now because they're closing profitability.
Well, yeah, and that would be going broke.
Yeah, and I don't think they were happy about that. And I also think it's got,
Why do they always get upset when we go, okay, you have the rings of power, it's woke. Oh, you can't say that. Yes, I can. No, you have no way to prove that. You made up all the characters. And the characters that do actually exist in Tolkien stories are nothing like what you did. You made black elves and black dwarves. And you know what? I happen to be a D&D fan going back to 1983.
What was that, 2nd edition?
Yes.
Okay.
2nd edition D&D. Loved, and I always played dwarves, dwarven assassins or dwarven thieves. I just like those characters.
We played very different classes, yeah.
We did.
I played paladin.
That's back in the day.
Yes, I played 1st edition, so I know.
And I loved it. Yeah. I loved the game.
Yeah.
And you know what? In all, from 1983 up until this year, no one has ever assumed that a dwarf would be black.
Yeah.
Because they're not.
Yeah.
They live underground. The closest you can get to that is a gray dwarf, which is called a dwerger. Mm-hmm. And they're evil.
It's like calling the Lego people racist. Do you remember that?
Yeah, because they're yellow. Okay.
Well, now they're white and now they have black and I guess and everything, but they used to be yellow. Yeah.
But no one cared. No. Guess what? The Simpsons are yellow too.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, they did care. Remember they canceled Apu?
No. Oh yeah, Apu. Yeah.
No.
This stuff is so stupid.
Yes. But People are gonna get mad at me because I speak the and to be fair, I don't go completely in depth because I have 1 minute.
Well, yeah, it's 1 minute.
That's
What
why
do
I
you
come on the
expect?
Sunday special, so you can talk to me about it.
Yeah.
If you want a more in depth, answer like me and Mike are doing with this Starbucks story.
Yes, user has been banned. Racist Legos. Yes, they said at one point over the last 20 years, they've said that Legos are racist, The Simpsons are racist, The Lord of the Rings is racist, orcs are black. Don't even know how you get that one. I mean, that's just so out. They created their own black dwarves, but orcs are black? Where do you get that? This is the kind of insanity that they've been trying to pump into people's brains to make them believe, no, see, we've always been right. We're here to protect you.
And by the way, I have the petition pulled up that is asking for changing of Lego people.
What year was that?
Let me double.
Was that 17?
Doesn't say on the petition. I'm just looking at it.
Okay, I think it's from 2017.
I don't know if this is real or not. This is the problem because parody has gotten too realistic.
Well,
We broke the simulation, Mike.
God knows we did.
They want us to eat bugs, live in pods. I've been telling you for weeks now. That's their end game.
That's actually a TED Talk, by the way, folks, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
There's actually several TED Talks about the
How
future.
epic it is to eat bugs. Yes.
Yeah, and that you will own nothing. And I love it. I love it when they go, this is the utopia. You will own nothing ever.
Yeah. Well, TED Talks. We were talking about that. The fake TED Talk that got out.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
User has been banned said, I thought orcs were green. They are.
I thought
Orcs
they were gray.
are green.
Were they gray too?
There is another species that is gray.
Yes. Okay.
The gray ones come from the video game.
Okay.
What's the video game?
Not Final Fantasy.
World of Warcraft.
Okay. Yeah.
The orcs in World of Warcraft are gray.
Or they can
Traditional
be,
orcs are green.
Yeah, they can be either color.
And in
Wow.
D&D, they're green and tan.
Yeah.
But they have never been black. Like black from Africa black. Let's be very specific about that. They're saying they're black from Africa black, that they are black people.
Well, this is also reminds me of what they did with Star Wars with the amount of like female Imperial officers and things like that.
You mean like Kenobi?
Yeah, well, to go on a little bit of a side tangent.
Notice how many woke things we can mention in a row? It's
I
so
just want to
crazy.
say, there are female Imperial officers in the EU. Yes. Admiral Dahlia. From the Jedi, this is my immense Star Wars EU knowledge. But they're rare and they're seen as a exception, so they're even tougher than like
They'd
the
have to
normal
be.
officer. Yeah, so it meant something when there was a female Imperial officer. Like,
Well, they would stand out.
Yeah, like the one who had the love affair with Tarkin.
Yes.
Because Dahlia, and you knew she was tough as nails. You knew because she literally controlled like her own semi-functional Death Star.
Well, yeah, and Tarkin wouldn't stand for anyone who wasn't his equal.
Exactly, right. And she hacked into the Imperial network to make a fake person, and he saw that and was like, wow, your scores are through the roof. You must be good. Let me make you in charge of our secret military project. So it was rare. They did exist, but it was rare. And when you met them, you knew, oh, I'm not messing with them.
Well, yeah, but they've destroyed...
Now it's like anyone can be a stormtrooper, I guess. The Imperial Academy will
Well,
take
I'm not
anyone.
even thinking about that. Think about the fact that Finn is useless.
Finn is very useless.
Rey is a Mary Sue. And the way they portrayed her diminished Princess Leia.
Yeah.
I mean, in the first film, which is now considered a new hope for younger people, episode
Force Awakens.
4.
The only not... Oh, are you
No,
talking-
no.
Oh, I thought
The
you were talking about-
original.
Okay, yes. Episode 4, yep. A New Hope.
Yeah, and she was a badass. Princess Leia was a badass.
I just rewatched New Hope yesterday. Yeah, I can confirm. She's shooting stormtroopers and stuff.
Yeah.
She's
She's
sassy.
taking charge. She's figuring a way out. You know,
Yeah,
she's,
but when she shoots through the trash compactor, she's like, someone's got to do it. Han Solo's
she's standing up to Grand Moff Tarkin. She's standing up to Vader. Just
standing up to Han Solo, the most
as they're
handsome
about to
man.
blow up her planet. I
Yeah.
mean, she's tough. No one complained.
No.
But nowadays, if you don't have representation, then, something's wrong. I can't connect to I can't appreciate Princess Leia being a badass because I'm a black man. Why not?
Yeah. It's
Since when?
Yeah, I don't understand this whole I can't relate to this character. It's like I guess physically I can't relate to Thrawn, but the Blue Admiral, who by the way is the greatest villain in all of
A
fiction.
blue alien.
Yes.
A blue alien admiral.
Yes. I can't physically relate to him, but his mental love for art. By the way, Thrawn is the greatest villain of all time. Who's better?
Darth Vader.
No. Thrawn is much better.
No.
Yes.
Darth Vader.
No, Thrawn.
No.
Thrawn, literally, the way Timothy Zahn wrote him.
I know how he wrote him.
Yes. The way he thinks and even his defeats are victories
I understand.
is much better than Darth Vader.
No.
Yes.
You haven't read enough about Darth Vader. Keep reading the EU stories.
I am. I'm very far into the EU novels, but we're on a sidetrack.
We totally sidetracked here.
Yes.
Yes, because I don't only deal with politics.
Yes. If you want a real debate between me and Mike on who is the better villain, let us know in the comments. We'll have that video.
But we all know who the greatest villain is. Darth Vader. That's done.
Thrawn. No. But and hey, if we get enough subscribers and likes, I'll dress up as Admiral Thrawn. I'll buy the whole costume for the show. So that's something you guys can look forward to, right? I'll dress up in the whole white uniform and come in with the Imperial outfit. We'll have that debate.
You know what? That's what we should do for Halloween.
That would be really cool.
We
Yeah.
should be Imperial
Our favorite
officers.
Star Wars characters, yeah.
No. Imperial. We should be the Imperium for the Imperials. Excuse me. I was
Imperial
thinking 40K.
officers, yeah. Only
Or I could be a chaos. I know. Totally off topic, folks. Yeah, we're often on whole thing. We're running here.
Yes.
For Halloween, I can be a chaos marine out of Warhammer 40K. I could be like Angron.
Yeah, I never was
Yes,
into Warhammer.
geek out with me, folks. Geek out with me. Just go with it.
Yeah, Warhammer's a little...
Oh, Warhammer's great.
It used to be great.
Before they started trying to go woke, yes.
Yeah, you want to talk about... Yeah, no, I'm a Star Wars fan through and through. I have the Boba Fett tattoo to prove it. I mean,
I know you do.
yes, I do. Yes, your fans might not, though. Our viewers. But if we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will do that for Halloween. I'll dress up in the Thrawn outfit. I will come in for the Halloween special.
Yeah, I could do.
1,000 subscribs, right? If we hit
We're
1,000 subscribers,
We're close.
So tell your friends, tell your family.
Oh, by the way, I haven't played this yet. So where is it? There it is. Please, if you have liked any part of the show, if you found it interesting, educational, if you liked the conversation, please like, share, subscribe. Most of all, subscribe. Help us reach. We're looking for 1,234 subscribers. That's my target. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just that easy. Costs you nothing. Changes nothing in your life. Means the world to our channel. And we hope you'll help us be able to get to that target. Mm-hmm. And at the end of and I think that's really important, but yeah, that would be kind of fun. That's an October, Halloween kind of thing.
Yeah, and if we can hit 1,000 subscribers, I think we should do it.
Yeah,
should I do
that.
the full blue makeup?
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, I will go full Thrawn for the show if we can hit 1,000 subscribers, and we're on the way. The JRS break is doing well. Mike's, the show is doing well. And if you also want to help us out, you can donate as well. Link will be in the description below. So if you want to help us out with that.
You gotta wait for a second. Hang on.
Yeah. Jumping the gun promoting us.
No. I'm doing something completely different.
No. But, and like I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see me and Mike debate on who's the greatest villain, if this video hits 50 likes, we'll do it.
Yeah, for 50 likes, I'd do it.
We'll have a 30-minute debate. And you know what? We'll get Preston to host it. Our friend Preston.
If he can.
Oh, he will. Yes, I think he would be down for that. So 50 likes. Hit that like button, guys.
Yeah, it's not a lot to ask for. 50 likes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can go into the deep nerd nitty-gritty about Star Wars, and I just threw in Star Trek just for the hell of it, even though it's the weakest of all of them.
I can completely agree. Star Trek.
But, which one is best? Star Wars, Star Trek, or Warhammer 40K?
Star Wars is clearly the best, but greatest film trilogy of all
And
time.
who looks the most like Jabba the Hutt? Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, I'd say
Or-
Jerry Nadler.
No, that's where I was going.
The next Speaker of the House, potentially.
Oh, God. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. One, they're going to lose, so no.
Yes.
And two, no.
Well, that's true, yeah. They are going to lose, so I guess the bet is null and void when they lose the midterms. Because Pelosi didn't retire.
But it was never going to be Jerry Nadler.
I think she came close to retiring. I think she came very close to retiring.
I think she came close to a... Oh, how can I word this? A liquid-induced coma.
Yes. But you know what?
Just like her husband when he's driving.
Yeah. But you know what? I will give her props on one thing. She did go to Taiwan.
And screwed up. She
Yeah.
screwed up the whole thing. She made things so much worse. There was
It's the
absolutely
thought that
no
counts.
benefit for her going to Taiwan. None.
Yeah.
She had no plan.
No.
She did it for votes.
Yeah.
And she made everything worse. Now Japan and Korea are being threatened by China because she showed up in Taiwan for no reason.
Yeah, I wish she had more of a reason.
Weakening America's position with our allies because China is literally in their face throwing missiles at them saying, see, and America won't do anything. Biden, toothless, useless. You better listen to us or else. That is what Nancy Pelosi did.
Well,
that
she
is the
is-
sum of it all.
She is the highest elected representative to go to Taiwan and recognize them as a country. It's something. I will give credit where credit is due.
No, it's the wrong. You know what? There's doing things. There's just doing something, and then there's doing something effective and purposive.
Yes.
She had no effect, and she had no positive effect, and she had no purpose. All she did, yes, it's wonderful. Someone in the American government said, "Hey, we believe Taiwan is its own country." That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I do support that when there's a purpose, which
Didn't say that the
part that she
timing was
left out
good,
is,
yeah.
and America will do X, or
Yeah.
we are going to support our allies. She just left it off the last part. Why?
Yeah.
She has no power to do it. So all she did is piss off China. So China decided, not only are we going to piss all over Taiwan, we're going to throw missiles, 11 of them, at Japan. And we're certain they're currently circling around South Korea as we speak.
I'm surprised they even have power to do that right now.
Who? China?
Yeah. They're low on resources. I'm surprised they have the power.
Because they've been building up a navy.
Well, that too, yeah.
They're building the world's largest navy.
Yeah, but I mean, for a while
Yes,
there,
Tibet should be a country. I agree with you. User's been bad.
To be fair, too, I mean, China was having power outages for 1/3 of the entire population, like
They don't
a year
care.
ago.
That just means that's part of their population control. They want their population to go down. They can't support 1.2 billion people.
That is true.
So
too,
they
yeah.
don't care if a couple 100,000 die on any given day.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but
Okay, so we've gone completely off the rails, but we
Yes.
still have 7 minutes. We still have 7 minutes, even as we go completely off the rails. But there is things that are important there. By the way, if anyone can name a positive outcome because Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan, please, you can call in 607-242-1582, or you can leave me a message, type it in on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, or after the show in the comments and say, this is the net positive thing that Nancy Pelosi got for being in Taiwan. Other than votes. She got votes from Democrats. Okay, I give you that. That's not a positive for the nation. That's a positive for her. It's selfish. I want something that's not selfish. How did she help America or our allies or the world? Global stability. I can't name it.
yeah, people can call in, like I said. And if you disagree with anything we've talked about or any of Mike's previous episodes or the J-Rest break or anything like that, please let us know.
Yeah. The only thing we ever ask is be respectful.
Just don't curse us. Just don't start cursing. Like, I'm more than willing to talk to you for however long you want, as long as you don't, I don't want Mike's channel to get hit.
Happy Life. Our resident
BFF.
bot, our Democrat bot is here with
Our
us.
friend.
Happy Life.
Yo, what's going on, Happy Life?
And
Shout out to
Happy
you.
Life says, And the only reason why I'm picking, by the way, Democrats, Happy Life has proven themselves to be a bot more than once. So this is why we pick on them. But any human being that has a different opinion, we're happy to listen to. So Happy Life says, Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan shows our strength as a country and shows women are equal to men. Okay.
Base take, epic.
Let's just rip this apart because
Happy Life, that was good take. I like that.
That's you know what? I'm glad that you brought it up. First of all, Nancy Pelosi doesn't make U.S. policy. The only person who does that is the United States president. So she has no strength. She doesn't speak for the Congress. She doesn't speak for the Senate, who would approve all treaties. So she can't approve a treaty, and she can't set policy. So she's not strong. So that's gone. She's just a woman who happens to be elected, which is meaningless. And she shows that women are equal to men. If you mean that women can make a dumb decision just like men can make a dumb decision, I agree with you. If you're trying to say that woman is power, feminism, yay, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind, okay? No one's disputed that she's Speaker of the House. She proved that which time when she was Speaker of the House? Yeah, that's not a question in America. It wasn't a question for China either. China also doesn't care. They've never cared because she has no power over them. So that's useless. And again, what power did she's equal to men? How? If you're telling me, because if Joe Biden went over, then he's the guy who can actually make international policy. Not the same equivalent to Nancy Pelosi. If Chuck Schumer went over to Taiwan, he can actually make policy. Not the same as Nancy Pelosi. There is no equality here. We're talking about different positions for different people. Your wonderful bullet point, while it is parroted perfectly from CNN, has no relevance.
Mike, it sounds like you don't like Happy Life.
I don't like bots.
I like Happy Life.
I don't like bots that parrot.
I'm a big fan. Happy Life, I'm a fan of you.
You just like him because he's helping our algorithm. I personally...
Why you gotta call me out like that? No, Happy Life, you can talk to us as much as you want. Call in, Happy Life. I want to talk to you.
Oh, I've asked Happy Life to call in many times. They won't.
Oh, come on, Happy Life.
They're terrified to actually have a conversation.
Yeah, is true.
That's why every time, and this is why I know it's a bot, every time they can only answer in one sentence that comes straight from CNN. They don't actually have a conversation.
No.
It's just a bot plugging in the latest parroted bullet point from the DNC. And that's why I don't like it.
Fair enough.
Mike Bowie says, I think Nancy had some business deals in Taiwan, nothing political at all. Quite possibly, we do know that in the United States, her husband, Paul, when he wasn't busy getting into drunken car accidents, bought chip stocks before Nancy Pelosi made laws about, or helped pass laws about chips. So, yeah, maybe she was there doing some business for herself. Quite possible.
Yeah, and Paul Pelosi, still, we don't know much about that case. There hasn't been too much reported on it.
Well, we do know that he was drunk.
We do know that. We do know alcohol was in
and
the
he
system.
may have been on some kind of drugs.
Yes. What kind of drugs? We don't know. The police told us a story that they classified it as a substance, a drug substance, because that's how they file the reports, I guess is what they said.
Which isn't actually true.
California, yeah, it was a really bad cover story, but yeah, that was kind of the worst cover story I think of the day I read. I kind of tilted my head like, what?
They're not good at making up lies.
No.
They can't cover them. They really do not. They need to hire people who actually can think. See, this is the problem with the Democratic Party. Most politics in America, but definitely a Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. They're wonderful at putting up a slogan.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
They have zero concept of consequence.
You know what? I disagree, Mike. They do have an end game. Eating bugs, living in pods, assimilation.
For you,
yes.
Not for them.
No. That is true, yeah.
But, there's so many levels on that are so annoying. But And notice, by the way, Happy Life hasn't said another word.
Happy Life. No, where'd you go?
You
That's
know,
my friend.
you would think that
You scared him off, Mike.
you would think he would defend his position. If I'm wrong, he would think he would have said something. Mike, no, she can somehow pass. She can do international policy.
I think you just scared him off.
Or that she can somehow take Chuck Schumer's job and, pass treaties, which are constitutionally not possible. I mean, defend your position, man. Mm-hmm. If you think I'm wrong, tell me why. Don't give me a bullet point from CNN. I hate that. It's useless. And it's a bad bullet point from CNN at that.
Yeah, I don't get the whole woman thing, but...
Because it's useless. It's because it's meant to silence you. See, I said something. Yeah, you said useless shit. You parroted a bad quote. Sorry, that doesn't count as being original or deep thinking or
anything. Yeah.
Anything. It's like, okay. Hang on. Who was the best Republican president from the 1900s? From the 1900s, or do you mean in the century, the 19th century, or rather the 20th century? We just got to ask the question.
Okay.
User's been banned says,
okay, so...
who was the best Republican president from the 1900s? So I'm not sure if that means 20th century or the year 1900.
Okay.
20th century. Okay, it means 20th century.
Okay, so...
Best Republican in the 20th century?
President.
I know everyone likes to say Reagan, but kind of Nixon. I know he gets a bad rap.
I'm not saying that Nixon deserves it or anything. I'm just saying, odd choice. I would probably actually have to say Reagan. I know that's
everyone goes with Reagan.
I understand it's the stereotypical answer, but to be fair, I mean, how many
Reagan did a lot. I'm not saying he didn't.
I
think he was a great president, but I think Nixon's very underrated. His international policies were very strong and very positive for America.
Stepping up the Vietnam War?
Vietnam War wasn't something that started under him.
No, it wasn't under him, but he definitely increased troop presence.
Okay, and I have no problem with America taking over countries.
Yeah, no, that would be a counterpoint. I mean... I'm not saying I disagree with the Vietnam War at all. I think containing communism is the way to go.
If we're gonna fight in a country, take it over.
Yeah, I would have
he says Eisenhower.
Eisenhower's good.
He's also a very strong president.
Yeah,
very strong president. So it depends on. I mean, what do you look at? I look at international policy as a very big thing for me.
Yeah.
Some people like Reagan's very powerful and very important because of domestic policy, not so much the international.
His foreign policy, he ended the Cold War. He bankrupted the Soviet Union.
That was kind of happening anyway.
Well, no,
he accelerated
it massively.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He started the whole Afghanistan-Russian conflict. He literally started the Star Wars program, which the technology was used in the Persian Gulf War.
Iran-Contra.
Yeah.
I mean, he had his failings too.
Iran-Contra, and that was just...
He had a few negatives too.
I don't know how much he knew. I don't
no president is perfect.
I don't think that's a terrible place.
Again, I'm not saying that he's a demon or anything. No president is perfect. They have They have their good points. They have bad points.
I like H.W. Bush a lot as well.
When I add them all together, I'm saying okay. Especially with my preference towards international policy, I think that's very important for the United States because of our national security. Why do I think international policy is so important? Why we talk about it on this show so much? Real simple. When the United States is strong, the rest of the world gets calm and peaceful relatively. Mm-hmm. We see less global terrorism. We see less wars. We see less, whether civil wars or wars between nations. We tend to see less of that when the United States has a strong president. So international policy is critical for the United States because if the world becomes more and more destabilized, we get things like assassins coming into the nation trying to kill one of our presidents. We get foreign spies in the Navy, and we get contracts and assassins trying to kill our former UN chief and the Mike Pompeo,
And our
former head of
authors.
state.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem when America's weak. American citizens are in danger.
Yeah.
So that's why I find international policy so important. Oh, Anthony Baha, B-H-A. That sounds Chinese,
Uh-huh.
which means it would be Baha, Bao. Yeah, Bao. I think it's pronounced Bao if
Okay.
it's Chinese, I believe. Says, imagine still backing Trump, ha ha, global clowns. Imagine backing Joe Biden. He doesn't know what state he's in. He doesn't know where to sit. I'm sorry. If you're asking me, I have a choice between President Trump, who can make a coherent sentence and knows where he is, versus Joe Biden, who needs a cue card to tell him where to sit. Yeah, I'm going to back Trump.
This person can call in, by the way.
You know, I think it sounds like it's another bot.
They can call in.
But I mean, come on. If you're going to tell me, why shouldn't I back President Trump? He's coherent. He's had effective policies. He's, if not respected, he's feared.
Great Twitter account.
Great Twitter account. Versus, let's see, Kamala Harris. Everywhere she's been in the world, she's made situations worse. Demonstrably, she has made relations for the U.S. worse. She's in charge of the southern border. It's wide open. 250,000 illegal aliens every month for the last 18 months. Gee, that's a failure. Joe Biden, again, he cannot figure out where to sit without a cue card. Okay, that's the comparison, and you're telling me that Trump is the bad choice in that scenario. I don't think so.
Why do none of these people call in?
Because they're too busy finding quotes on CNN to try and shoot at me and say, oh my God, see, but you just don't understand. Yeah, I've been doing it 15 years. Yeah, I understand. You know, and they think that somehow I forgot what happened 3 months ago. I don't. I remember things that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, Mike Bowie says, I want to know why the IRS needs firearms. 87. Oh, that's what we forgot to talk about.
No, we talked about that a bit.
No, not the IRS, not the 87.
Me and Jason talked about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we covered a bit of it. Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we covered it.
What are they going to do with all those hollow points? You know, I said this
Steal your
on
money.
one of the shows, one of the roundtables that I was on. You know, if the IRS, matter of fact, if you go to Instagram, you'll see I have a 1 minute, 10-second clip that says very simple. If the IRS, they claim that this is perfectly normal to hire agents, they're special agents, to be able to be armed and to use deadly force. If it is so commonplace, if it's so normal for them, why did they pull the ad? Why did they pull it? All they had to do is show us evidence of any other ad in the history of the IRS where they asked for the same thing for that same position. Just show us another one of your job ads that said, hey, you have to be willing to use deadly force and you'll be armed. Just show us one more from any other time in history. No one has a question. Okay, you're doing the same thing you've always done. They, instead of showing us evidence, pulled the ad and deleted it and hid it from the American people, hoping you're going to forget. That's the problem with that. Mm-hmm. And no one wants to address that question. Why did they hide it instead of justify it and actually show us proof?
Yeah.
That's scary. Mm-hmm. User has been banned. Says, why does Trump live in their minds so hard? It's been 6 years, man. I don't know why. He's been out of office for 18 months, and they cannot stop. They can't get through a half-hour conversation without mentioning Trump. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Oh, yeah. Okay. User has been banned, who's sometimes funny, says Kamala did tell the aliens not to visit. The illegal immigrants, though, are okay.
Yes. Yeah.
A little witty.
Yeah.
A little witticism. All right. So we've been talking for about 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I've been up for over 24 hours. I'm a little tired today.
Yep.
Did the event. So, users Ben says, but why would they specifically order hollow point ammo for training? Because they're lying. It's just that simple. They're lying.
Yeah.
Tina. Hey, Tina. Tina says, pure hatred. They have no working policies or any care to fix any problems. Then this is something that you can say about Democrats and Republicans alike. More Democrats than Republicans, but yes, they have no policies. They have no. At least we occasionally get plans from Republicans. Whether or not they follow through on them or that whether they're good plans, that's another question. But at least they more often than not have a plan. Democrats have a headline to get more votes. That's the difference. Neither of them are effective. And as I've always said, and I'll say it again on this program, I don't care who you vote for. And I truly don't. I don't care who you vote for. As long as you have a reason, not a headline, not a quote, not a soundbite, an actual reason. And one other thing I want you to do is, actually, have a reason. Mm-hmm. You can vote for anyone you want to. Just have a reason. Have an actual reason.
Yeah.
And telling me and just what we're seeing now, I always say you want to vote for someone who's effective and efficient, and they have a reason for being there. 90% of Congress have absolutely no reason for being there. And they're not effective and they're not efficient. So replace them all. We don't need term limits. Vote them out. That's all. But like I said, we've been at this for about 2 hours, 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's been a great show, but we're going to, I know we usually go 3.5, 4 hours. We're going to be a little bit short today because I'm a little bit tired. It's catching up to me. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy always having John in with us.
Yep.
And again, you're going to see the J Rest break about once a day, right, John?
Yeah, every morning I try to release it unless there's a video that doesn't do too well, then I let it sit a little while and people can see that. Yeah. No, it's been doing very well. Our one this morning, check out the Starbucks one. It's at 800 views. Smash that like button, subscribe. It's good.
Yep. And you know what? It takes 1 minute.
Yeah.
By the time you nuke your water for your morning coffee, you'll have already seen it.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me you don't have enough time.
Yeah. So be sure to check that out, and I'm always glad to be in the studio with Mike.
Yeah. So, folks, we will be back every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless the internet overlords decide to try and shut us down, which they keep trying. They haven't succeeded yet. But we're going to be here because we want to hear your voices, whether you call in or leave us a comment on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, like so many of our audience do. And we appreciate every word and everything that you guys have to say. I look forward to seeing you again soon. John's going to be with us. Mm-hmm. Folks, you are wonderful. You're a great audience. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I want you to be well. Have a great day. And I'll see you next week.